All right, thank you, Alex. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the East Bay Regional Park District on September 6th, 2022, and we're beginning the meeting at 1:35. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll of the board?
Yes, President Coffey. Director Lane.
Here.
Director Rosario.
Here.
Director Waspy.
Here.
Director Eccles.
Present.
Director Wieskamp.
Here.
Director Corbett.
Here.
And President Coffey.
Present.
Deputy General Manager Alvarez.
Present.
General Counsel Burgo.
Here.
AGM Cook. AGM Chief Chiabaro. AGM Kelchner.
Here.
Acting AGM Kassabaum. AGM O'Connor.
Here.
CFO AGM Walker.
Thank you. Director Rosario, would you lead us in the pledge?
Please stand.
Our pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director. You're welcome. And I asked Director Waspy to conduct the native acknowledgement for us this afternoon. Dennis?
Thank you. The East Bay Regional Park District's headquarters is located within Huichin territory on the unceded lands of the Ohlone Chochenyo-speaking peoples who have continuously lived upon this land since time immemorial. The lands now encompassed within the boundaries of the East Bay Regional Park District are the ancestral territory of the Ohlone, Bay Miwok, and Delta Yukut. Today's Ohlone, Bay Miwok, Delta Yukut people are thriving, vital members of the Greater Bay Area community. They remain intrinsically connected to the land they have stewarded since time immemorial. So please join us in recognizing and honoring this land and their ancestors, elders, descendants, and all other members of their communities.
Thank you, Director. We will now need to approve our agenda for this afternoon. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Director Wieskamp, second. Director Rosario, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffey. Director Waspy.
Aye.
Director Eccles.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
President Coffey.
Aye. Well, today's meeting is held pursuant to the Brown Act as amended by AB 361. Board members and staff may participate via phone and video conferencing, as can the general public. Madam Clerk, could you explain how one can submit public comments?
Yes, President Coffey. Members of the public can submit a comment by simply sending me an email at yburial@edparks.org, via voicemail at 510-544-2016, leaving a message which we will transcribe and get to the board, or simply by joining the meeting via the Zoom link, which is listed on the agenda, which has been posted on the district's website. Public comments will not be read at the meeting, but any written emails or transcribed voice messages will be included and will be given to the board before the 3 p.m. and have been given to the board before the 3 p.m. deadline yesterday. What do I want to say? That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah,
I'll
we'll
let
get
you
to that
finish.
when we determine what public comment we have. Before we get to our consent calendar, we have an agenda item dedicated to public comments on items that are not on our agenda. And so we try to get a sense of that before the meeting, but people are free to show up at the meeting here in person or by Zoom. We did get several emails on the telecommute policy from employees, several of them directed to this agenda, and we've read them. And do we have requests for public comment at this point?
Yes, President Coffey, we have 3 speakers here this morning, and they are Meg Peterson, Renee Patterson, and Meadow Darcy, and in that order.
All right, and there'll be allotted 3 minutes each. Thank you. Make sure it's on.
That's probably helpful. Good afternoon. My name is Meg Peterson, and I've worked for the district for 22 years in the GIS services group. I appreciate the time to speak with you today and to grieve the process we are currently in. I do not need to repeat the benefits you have heard remote work has brought to your staff, but I will repeat the benefits to this agency in staff efficiency, technology advancement, a more robust and competitive recruitment policy, and a lighter carbon footprint, almost effortlessly achieving a district mission directive for climate change. My intention today is to express my disappointment in how the back to the office conversation has eroded and been mismanaged. With no answering the question staff are asking, why? The nation's largest park district looks to other agencies for leadership on remote work policies instead of listening to the guidance and hands-on expertise your unique staff have shown works. The outdated reasoning the district is championing that by being together, we will build collaboration and team spirit, but mandating when and how this happens is contradictory. Words like last, best, and final are used to be dismissive, combative, and authoritarian. It's as if the district is picking a fight when none is needed. Your staff have told you they are in their dream jobs. They have become more efficient, work harder, are healthier, and appreciative. You all should be proud of the years of service you've devoted to this agency, as I am working with so many dedicated friends and staff. But I am tired of the time and energy wasted on arbitrary policies that will break what is not broken. In this new era, honor and trust the professionalism of your staff. Honor the commitment to stewardship and climate change that is trusted to your care. Honor the vote your communities have bestowed on you to uphold the missions of this agency for healthy parks and healthy people. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name's Renee Patterson, and I'm here to speak on the telecommuting policy. I want to ask the board to get involved. I'm going to come this board meeting, next board meeting, and at every board meeting until this is settled, just to put my face in front of you and ask you to get involved. I know you think maybe this isn't something that you should get involved in, but you have a lot of pretty unhappy employees at the district right now, all centered on this telecommuting policy. And, you know, miserable employees don't make good workers. So it is something that I think you should get involved in. I'm not going to go into any of the merits because I think people could argue both sides. So I just want to focus on the fact that a lot of people are unhappy. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for coming.
Meadow, Darcy.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. My name is Meadow Darcy, and I've been an employee with the district since 1996. I'm one of the biggest champions of the district. I tell all my friends to come and apply. I've always had a special place in my heart for the district. I worked at quite a few other employers, and one of the things that drew me to the district was that the district didn't lay off. That was the message I was told when I got hired, was the district doesn't lay off. And I was very excited to work somewhere, especially since my husband was in construction and got laid off quite frequently. I had also gotten laid off when I was very young and had to move out on my own. And I really had quite a bout of poverty on food stamps and such from being laid off. So to me, that was really important to come here. I really love working here. I am involved in the union, and I think it's a great opportunity to, at least I joined the union in order to change the narrative. I wanted to make sure that we were coming to the board, coming to management in a respectful manner, and not being, not engaging in name calling or things like that. I felt like that behavior wasn't productive. And so I really look at my time in the union and my service to the union as a way to solve problems. And I was listening to some of the comments previously, and one thing, actually, I had a few things that I wanted to read, but one thing that really stood out to me was picking a fight when none is needed. That really resonated with me because that's how I feel right now. I feel like management has picked a fight when there really wasn't one. People were very willing to discuss and negotiate and talk about what was working and what wasn't working. And that still to this day hasn't happened. I came here a couple of weeks ago and told you that, in negotiations, we said, what were the problems? And we were told by the negotiator that there was some learnings and that these learnings, that was what they used to put the policy together. And I asked for those learnings and said, please provide those. And to this day, none have been provided. Not one single learning, not one single complaint, not one single thing we can improve on. That just seems antithetical to the relationship with labor. I can't imagine having a relationship with my partner and not communicating. And that's what I'm seeing right now. And then I also wanted to point out that I received a text yesterday from Spare the Air. And
You have 30 seconds.
okay. I received a text yesterday with a Spare the Air alert telling me that the Spare the Air alert is in effect for Tuesday, September 6th for the San Francisco Bay Area, and that the air was very unhealthy, and that I could help improve air quality by working remotely and driving less. I received another one today about tomorrow. Unfortunately, I am not able to do that. Tuesday and Wednesdays are my normal telework days, but I'm not able to do that. I have to come in and I had to drive to work today. I don't really see what the benefit that is. And with an environmental ethic and all we do, I don't see how this is really helping that. So I would ask the board to consider continuing the agreement that the ASME had for so long that was working so well. And as we continue to figure out where we go from here. But it doesn't seem right to punish employees and punish the environment and punish the community for a fight that, what was it, a fight when the one is not needed. So thank you.
Thank you, Meadow. President Coffey, if I may, we've had 3 people raise their hands in the Zoom room,
Okay,
and I'm just going to
thank you, Meadow.
make a brief announcement for those 3 members of the public. Kelly Abreu, I see Deb's iPhone, and then Janet Ellen, then Ross Mitchell. You are allowed 3 minutes to speak. When your name is called, please unmute your mic and start your video. I will come on camera when you have about 20 seconds left. After your comment is completed, please mute your mic and stop your video. You may remain in the meeting. However, we ask that you stay on mute without commenting and stop your video. If you prefer to watch, please go to the Park District YouTube link that is located on the agenda. So we're going to start with Kelly Abreu. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So on Sunday, 2 days ago, Pleasanton was risking the health of athletes and Scotophiles at the Scottish Games that they held. This is the same thing that they do every single year, and they were wearing kilts that have plenty of ventilation, right? So people of Pleasanton were all standing there together in the roasting sun, and organizers of the Scottish event may either be perceived as reckless and irresponsible or respectful of cultural traditions. Meanwhile, the Park District closed a lot of parks to err on the side of caution. Now, as climate change brings excessive heat, these kinds of park closures on major holidays like Labor Day, they might become acceptable or even commonplace. And of course, could reducing the visitor load during the peak summer season, how's that going to impact the working conditions? We're hearing about telecommuting. If we're going to do park closures like we did yesterday, and we did the day before yesterday, in the name of excessive heat, is this going to be an opportunity to downsize the Park District staff and get rid of the people that are trying to address those peak visitor loads and maybe just expand the land banks instead, so we don't have any people in the parks. We just have parks for animals and birds and insects. Yesterday, the temperature in Fremont was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Today is going to be 3 degrees hotter than that. Yesterday was unbearably hot. Today is even hotter. Yesterday, the parks were closed. Today, the parks are open. How is that? Do we care about people yesterday, but those few people who are venturing out into the parks today don't get any protection from the public safety services of this park district? What is going on here? If temperatures and high heat and health and if there are physical considerations, physical criteria that launch these park closures, why are they not in effect today? Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. Our next speaker is Deb's iPhone. That's all that I have. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Deb. I'm born and raised in East Bay and have been an avid user of the parks. And I do speak to many of your park employees off and on when I run into them. And I recently heard and read the article in the newspaper about this telecommute issue that the GM and assistant GMs are pretty much forcing the employees to come back to work. I'm actually ashamed to hear this. What is your guys's footprint being put upon this earth if you're forcing all your employees, which is what, at least 1,000 employees, to be mandated to come back into the office? How is that helping the environment? What supports this mandate? I think the board members really need to have a look at their management and ask them, just like Meg, who previously said, why are they picking a fight? There's no point, there's no purpose. I think the board members need to get on board with what the current environment is, along with the GM and assistant managers, and question why they are mandating all of their employees to come back to work. It serves no purpose other than basically warming a seat all day and making many employees unhappy in the work environment. They are sinking this ship, unfortunately, as the saying goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janet, you have 3 minutes. Janet?
Hi, my name is Janet, and I live in the East Bay, have frequented the parks many times over the years with my children. I wasn't aware of the telecommute issue until I read the article in the newspaper. Everything that Meg Peterson has said and the people prior, I agree with. I'm not certain as to why, if there's a hidden agenda as to why forcing the employees back to seats, back to their office space when they can do their work just as eloquently as at home. In addition to, as we're experiencing these heat waves and the cause of more cars on the road unnecessarily. And morale, I think, of the employees certainly has to be going down. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having this board meeting. This article wouldn't have appeared in the paper. And I'm hoping that more people, well, there probably won't be as many people speaking on this because of various reasons, but I feel that not taking your employees, taking them seriously and recognizing the hard work that they've done over the 2 years or plus of COVID, they've done a fine job. And I wish somebody could give an explanation as to why you're forcing them to go back in. And the other thing is people in crowds, and you're all wearing masks now. COVID, it must still be an issue. They're more protected at home, and from what I've read, more productive. So thank you for your time. I hope you rethink this. And I like that phrase, don't pick a fight where a fight isn't needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Ross Mitchell and then Mike Moore. Ross, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Appreciate the time today. Also wanted to talk about telework policy and where we find ourselves. It's really unfortunate that we've ended up needing to go to the Public Employee Relations Board in regards to negotiations around our telework policy. The actions that management have taken are not congruent with their statements saying that they seek a positive working partnership with ASME. Further, management's insistence on reducing our fundamental union rights to the grievance procedure continues a disturbing pattern of seeking reductions to those rights. Management has sought limitations and exemptions in at least the last 2 negotiations and are now attempting to unilaterally impose limits on our grievance process through this telework policy. This is antithetical to creating a positive relationship with ASME and also seems in opposition to past board resolutions supporting strong unions. As ASME members, we know that we have rights to negotiate around working conditions and came to the table fully prepared and proposed significant compromises on the telework policy. Unfortunately, that was not reciprocated by district management. We hope that the board will take action to show that their resolution supporting strong unions were sincere, and we hope that we can find a resolution that creates a telework policy that will work for both ASME, the district's needs, and the members of the public who have talked about the benefits that they see to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you. Mike Moore and then Travis Turner. Mike, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Hello, my name is Mike Moore. I'm Park Service worker at Del Val. I'm here to express my disappointment with the district management's actions around the telework policy. As a union, we have a right to have a say in the working conditions at the district. Our union has worked hard to partner with management to come up with a policy that works for everyone, but management has not made any effort to compromise. I'm very concerned with management's insistence on taking away our fundamental union rights to the grievance process. As employees, we are partners in fulfilling the district's mission. Taking away our ability to bring up problems and seek resolution is not how you treat a partner. I am asking that you direct management to work with our union to create a policy that works for all parties and protects our fundamental union rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Travis Turner. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you for the time. My name is Travis Turner. I've been with the district going on 9 years now. I'm speaking today to, similar to everyone else, express my disappointment with the district management's actions around the telework policy and working together with the union. As a union, we have a right to have a say in the working conditions at the district. Our union has worked hard to partner with management to come up with a policy that works for everyone, but management has not made any effort to compromise. I'm very concerned with management's insistence on taking away our fundamental union right to the grievance process. This has happened more often than not. As employees, we are partners in fulfilling the district's mission. Taking away our ability to bring up problems and seek easy resolution is not how you treat a partner. I'm asking that you direct management to work with our union to create a policy that works for all parties and protects our fundamental union rights. A second concern I would like to bring to your attention is the direction the district has been moving with hiring practices. I am the union's observer coordinator, and I take my job very seriously. My purpose is to make sure the district provides a fair, equal, and transparent hiring process to all of the internal and external applicants. There have been changes to this process, and we've been working to resolve our concerns at the lowest level possible. The hiring process now includes suggested or preferred answers for questions that are asked to the applicants. As observers, we are supposed to be provided the same paperwork as a panelist. This is not happening. We are supposed to be provided the questions the panelists are provided as well. This is not happening. We are being told there is a concern for the risk of confidentiality if observers are provided the same paperwork, such as the suggested answers. My question is, why is the concern for the union side who is equal at the hiring table, but there is not concern of the panelists, both internal and external panelists, having this information provided to them? I'm asking the board to encourage those involved to work with the union and provide a transparent hiring practice as we used to have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It looks like we have one more speaker. Edward Culver, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Edward, could you maybe do it in 2? You popped on kind of late and it's affecting my time management of the meeting. So if you could, thank you.
Yes, sir. I probably will be much faster. Thank you for actually having me. I was doing field work this morning and so just barely made it to this meeting. So I deeply appreciate the opportunity, President Coffey and members of the board. As I said, I'm an employee for the Park District, and to make it to the meeting and also to avoid as much heat as I could, I was out working in Sonoma this morning before sunrise. And was working until noon. I can tell you it's 107 in the Sonoma right now, so it's very hot out there. I also just wanted to voice my concerns about the new proposed telework agreement that management has proposed, that most of us have agreed to. It does remove a lot of our grievance rights. It tries to fit a one-size-fits-all agreement to all of us. As I said, I was out working before sunrise this morning, and so I don't work a normal 9 to 5, and so I don't see myself represented in this new agreement by management, and I would just really appreciate if there could be a little bit more willingness to work with the union on this, and that's all. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for dropping in, Edward. Okay, with that, we'll move to announcements. Item C.
Thank you, President Coffey. We wanted to just present our new member of the legal division. The board was kind enough to allow an additional position in legal. So this is the first time to have a 4th lawyer. So this is Allison Dibley. I just wanted you to be able to see her face, and you'll be obviously seeing her around and hearing from her as things move forward. But I'll let Allison give a little introduction about who she is.
I grew up in the East Bay, so I'm very familiar with the Park District. I went to law school at the University of Iowa, moved back to California about 20 years ago, and have been practicing labor and employment law here in California since then. I'm very happy to be here and to be working with Lynn and with Jason and Rachel and with the folks in the Human Resources Department. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Chief?
Yep. Yeah, President Coffey, we also wanted to go ahead and introduce our 2 new captains here in person.
Mike on, green. Good afternoon, board of directors, general manager, community members, and colleagues. I'm Anthony Chabot, the assistant general manager of public safety, also your chief of police. And I'm very proud today to introduce our 2 new captains to the Park District. It's no accident that they're here with us at the Park District, that they intentionally chose to work with us. So it's not only a reflection on their testament to their work and their prowess as professionals, but also the Park District as well. So I have Captain Wilson Lau, and then I have Captain Al Elzy. Thank you.
Well, hello. Good afternoon, board. Good afternoon, everyone, and everyone in the virtual world. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me the time just to briefly talk about myself and do some introductions. I am also an East Bay kid like Allison. I'm a lateral from the Oakland Police Department. I've been here for about a month and a half and I'm extremely happy. My family and I are avid park users in both Contra Costa and Alameda County. And I'm actually a Parks Foundation member as well.
Wow.
Just yesterday, I was doing some park patrol with another sergeant at Point Pinole, and I just was telling him how amazing it is that now I get to walk and engage park patrons as a representative of the park district. I'm excited for the future. Thank you, Sabrina and Chief Jabril, for selecting me. And I hope I can complement our chief's leadership and his mission and values of safety, service, and stewardship.
Thank you and welcome, Captain. Hello, Board of Directors. My name is Al Elzey, and I don't have a introduction like Wilson prepared. So I was told just to say hello and that's it, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I am not from the East Bay. I was born and raised in Seoul, Korea, and then raised in San Francisco. And I grew up and went to school in San Mateo County. However, I have a lot of friends that live in the East Bay. The reputation of the district and the police department was really, really high, and that's why I chose to come here. So I want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this family, and thank you, Sabrina, and thank you, Chief. And that is all. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Captain, for coming to us. Thank you, Chief. Move on. All right, to the consent calendar. All right. What I'm going to do is ask if there are any items on the consent calendar that are to be pulled by request of the board, or if there are any questions outstanding.
No, President Coffey, I have nothing on the consent. No, not on the consent calendar. I haven't received anything from the board members.
All right, let me look around at the board in the Zoom room. Any of my colleagues have a question or a comment? Director Waspy.
Just a question on item C.
Civic Corps contract. Go ahead and we'll see who can answer.
Oh, okay, thank you. So this is the authorization to sign a contract with Civicor to do trails maintenance and fuels management projects, and I fully support this. I've worked with CC or the Civicor before the EBCC. Great program. In the text of the in the text of the item here, we mentioned how this is a great way to take inner city kids, train them the park district way, see if they like the park district, and kind of a ladder to become part of the park district, which made me ask the question, and it was referred to as that we established a trails and fuels crew in 2019. Where is the trails crew? Have we hired the trails crew? I look forward to the trails crew. I can't wait till we get a trails crew, but I haven't seen them.
Good afternoon, directors. Jim O'Connor, your Assistant General Manager of Operations. Director Waspy, in answer to your question, we are in the meet and confer process with the union right now, and hopefully we're almost complete with that, and we'll get those positions hired soon.
Great. I look forward to that.
Thank you, Jim.
I have a question.
Director Corbett.
On item G, do we have any knowledge as to when the decision can be made as to whether we have the opportunity to apply for that funding?
Mike Reeves will come on respond.
Good afternoon, Mike Reeves, your Chief of Land Acquisition, and Director Corbett, to answer your question. We anticipate the Coastal Conservancy staff is reviewing a pre-proposal now, and your authorization today will allow for the full proposal to go forward. And then we understand that it'll be from say 4 to 6 weeks before a determination is made by Coastal Conservancy staff as to whether to refer this request for funding onto the Coastal Conservancy Board of Directors for consideration. So 4 to 6 weeks.
Thank you very much for making that application.
Thank you, Mike. Ordinarily, I actually would have pulled that item. An ask of a state agency of that magnitude would indeed benefit from background. But it's item 2B on our action agenda this afternoon on the actual acquisition of the property. So I thought that'd be a opportunity for a deeper background. Any other board comments or questions on the consent items?
I'm glad to make the motion on the consent calendar.
Let me see if there's any public comment, then I'll come back to you. Any public comment on consent items? Any
No,
hands
President
raised?
Coffey, I apologize for that. The speakers we have are gonna speak on 2B.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, I don't see any hands raised. So Director Corbett, go ahead with your motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion on the consent calendar that we approve these very important measures.
I second that.
Director Corbett moves, Director Lane seconds. Please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffey. Director Rosario. Aye. Director Eccles. Dr. Eccles. Okay. Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Waspy.
Aye.
And President Coffey.
Aye. Is
Yeah,
Director
so-
Eccles on the Zoom call or
just
did she
looking
drop off?
here. I
It
don't
looks like
see her.
she's dropped off.
Yes, she's dropped.
Well, she was having connection
Yes, she
issues
was.
earlier, so that's unfortunate.
Can we
Okay.
add her to it later when she comes on?
Yes, we could. If she comes back in. If not, it's still,
Yeah, the problem is we just took a roll call
yeah, we have a forum.
and it's effective. The item passes, and I don't know if there is a, a legal purpose to coming back in a sense, and council is nodding no, so it's just unfortunate, but she was here. Okay, let's move to Acquisition Stewardship and Development Division 2A, authorization to approve a land use plan checklist amendment regarding Robertson property. Pleasanton Ridge. Brian Holt.
Good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board, General Manager Landreth, Brian Holt, Chief of Planning Trails and GIS today. I'll be providing a brief introduction before handing it over to Kim Tai, our Senior Planner on this project. Very excited to be here today to advance really one of the key components of the Park District's mission, and that is to expand public access to our regional parklands. So the item before you today is opening a substantial area of land bank property to result in a significant expansion of Pleasanton Ridge Regional Park. First, want to acknowledge the many years of leadership from Director Wieskamp towards protecting lands at Pleasanton Ridge and her longstanding support for public access. The item before you today is opening 1,300-acre Robertson Ranch property. As you know, for many years, we have been working to develop a new staging area at the Tyler Ranch. That was approved in the 2011 Pleasanton Ridge Land Use Plan. That staging area is complete, ready to be open, and it gives us the opportunity to look at some of the adjacent land bank property around that site as well. The Robertson Ranch property was acquired after the adoption of the 2011 Pleasanton Ridge Land Use Plan. But in 2002, the board adopted a checklist amendment policy that essentially allows us to open up new lands to be opened up through the checklist amendment process. And the adoption of that checklist amendment is what's before you today. So this has been a long interdisciplinary effort, really led by our Assistant General Manager, Christina Kelchner, pulling together a team from our Stewardship Department, working closely with our Operations Division and our Public Safety Division and many others to make sure that we can open up this new really significant property. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kim Tai, Senior Planner, to provide all the details. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, members of the board, General Manager Landreth, and members of the public. Let me pull up the presentation. My name is Kim Tai, Senior Planner in the Planning, Trails, and GIS Department. I'm bringing to you today the Robertson Checklist Amendment to the 2012 Pleasanton Ridge Land Use Plan, As Brian mentioned, the checklist amendment is kind of the land use planning process to be able to append the Robertson property into the Pleasanton Ridge Regional Park.
Can't see her.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
Hey, that's okay. It's part of what the world is.
Thank you. Okay, it's the land use planning process to be able to append the Robertson property that's currently land banked into the Pleasanton Ridge Regional Park and add it into the land use plan. I'll be bringing a recommendation for the Board of Directors to approve not only the checklist amendment, but the accompanying CEQA document, the California Environmental Quality Act, for this property. To kind of orient you to the project area, the Robertson property is about 1,300 acres located in the southern portion of Pleasanton Ridge in the town of Sunol. It was acquired in 2012, just after the Pleasanton Ridge Land Use Plan had been adopted by the board. So unfortunately, it did not get incorporated into the land use plan or the CEQA document, the initial study and mitigated negative declaration. When it was acquired, it was expected that the property would be incorporated into the Pleasanton Ridge Regional Park and be able to open the property up for public access. In the map you see here, the Robertson property is highlighted in the bright orange. Adjacent to that is another land bank property that Brian had mentioned, the Tyler Ranch property. This property was included in the land use plan, and it was approved with staging area recommended, as well as the trails within Tyler Ranch property. On the Robertson property itself, there are existing fire roads and ranch roads seen here on the map in solid green lines. Planning staff had worked very closely with stewardship staff, park operations, and trail staff, and others to determine which of the 18 miles of existing ranch road can be opened up for public access, which can be closed and not needed for public access, and which to save for service roads for staff. We're really excited to be showing you some of the pictures that we've taken, the staff has taken while they're on site on the property. Within the top of the property, there are amazing panoramic views right at the top of the Sunol Peak and along the Sunol Ridge Trail. Park users will be able to see Mount Diablo all the way to Brushy Peak and the Sunol Ohlone and Mission Peak. And on very clear days, you can also see Mount Umunum in Santa Clara County and also Mount Tam in Marin County. As Director Rosario and Coffee can attest, having been out there last week, the trails are steep, but the views are worth it. There's a 1,700 elevation gain just to get to the Sunol Ridge summit. The peak itself, where there are currently communication towers by Alameda County, rises to over 2,100 feet. Park users will be surrounded by grasslands, forest, chaparral, ponds, and creeks. The entire property has historically been used for cattle grazing, so cattle grazing will continue to be used as a fuel management aspect for the property. We wanted to give you a preview of this, of the amazing views by hiring a drone pilot to provide some drone footage. In here, you can see the Sunol Ridge Trail climbs up from the Tyler Ranch staging area at the bottom through both Tyler Ranch property and the Robertson property. Here are the communication towers at the very peak. Again, 1,300 acres for Robertson property and over 1,100 acres for the Tyler Ranch property. And in total, about 18 miles of trails on both properties. In the far distance, you can see Mount Diablo. And as we pivot towards the east, you can start to see Morgan Territory. In the closer foreground, you can see here there's Pleasanton Ridge, an existing parkland. And here's the Sunol Ridge. As we pivot further, you can see Brushy Peak in the far distance. You can see the Park District vehicle where the pilot and staff are working from and controlling the drone. In far distance, you can also start to see the SFPUC's property, including the San Antonio Reservoir. And along the ridge trail, you can kind of see the Snow Ridge Trail, you can see the gate, which kind of connects the Tyler Ranch property to the Robertson property. Further south, you can see Sunol, Ohlone, and also Mission Peak. And as we pivot further south, starting southwest, you can start to see Vargas Plateau and the beautiful Niles Canyon. We're really excited to be able to show this footage to all the members of the board, members of the public, and be able to get the public out there after this. The checklist amendment itself, in reviewing the 18 miles of ranch roads on the property with staff, we've determined that about 12 of those miles are safe and suitable for public access. And because these miles of trails will be on existing ranch roads, no new construction, staff has determined that this project will be exempt from CEQA. So we plan to file a notice of exemption following board approval. As we saw earlier in the footage, there was that gate that separated the Tyler Ranch project from the Robertson property. And the anticipation is that the public will be able to get on from the Tyler Ranch staging area, hike up Tyler Ranch Trail, then up to the Snow Ridge Trail. And once they get to that gate, they see the Robertson Ranch property. And we plan to open up Robertson property so that they can continue on beyond that gate. And so in total, with the Robertson property and the Tyler Ranch property, there will be a total of about 2,500 acres of open space to be open for public access. And again, about 18 miles of trails. And this will be open in the fall after after this land bank opening process, because in addition to this checklist amendment that goes through board approval, in the background, staff is working together to kind of go through a punch list of action items that are necessary to be able to open up this property. So this has been a multi-division team effort, not only with the Acquisition Stewardship and Development Division, but also Operations, Public Affairs, and Public Safety, to go through these items such as ensuring that gates, signs, and fencing has all been installed and make sense for the public, update park map brochures and information panels, and making sure that the trail maintenance is completed and adequate notice is done for the community, and be able to notify public safety and be able to open up the gates. The first step in getting this property open to the public is to go through this checklist amendment process for board approval. We've gone to the board executive committee as well as the park advisory committee, both of which have forwarded this item to the full board of directors for approval. Following board approval, we will work on a soft opening for this property, and that includes a community preview and open house for the Sunol community. This will be next Tuesday. This will be a chance for the community to be able to not only see the drone footage, take a look at the Tyler Ranch staging area, have any of their questions answered by park staff who will be present, and also get a chance to hike up the Tyler Ranch Trail. Following that, we'll also work again through those punch list items to take the land bank property off the land bank list. Park staff are working to develop a post-opening monitoring management plan as a way to monitor and manage the potential effects that the public use and access to the property will have on the resources within the property. And then we will have a more formal dedication event in winter to 2023. And that includes coordination with interpretive and recreation on the initial educational programming materials. So staff recommendation today is that the full board of directors approve the proposed Robertson checklist amendment and the CEQA notice of exemption. Thank you, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Kim. You know, this is really exciting. I appreciate the tour you gave us last week. It was just last week. I was glad we were driven up. It is very steep, and I definitely want to do it in the fall or winter or spring. What's exciting is this is the equivalent of opening a new regional park in and of itself. It's the size of Thurgood Marshall. It's got, putting 12 or 13 new trails into the system, and could easily have been separately named as the Knoll Peak Regional Park. It's that significant. I want to ask the board if there are any comments or questions. Director Corbett?
Thank you. It's definitely a beautiful spot of land, and it's so nice that you were able to bring some of the members of the board out to take a look. And thank you for your wonderful work. It's quite impressive. I'm just wondering, will you be able to take some of the rest of us out for a quick tour too?
Yes, that can be arranged.
Okay. I volunteer.
It shall be done. Director Lane?
Yeah, I also want to thank you for your work in moving this along. So many people talk to us about land bank properties and when will they be opened, and so it's really I'm really happy to see 2,500 acres of land bank opening in a year. So we're talking about winter of 2023, not winter of 2022. Is that right?
So
That
the
date is
winter,
correct?
yeah, winter 2023, so early next year. January, February, March. of
I know
next year.
winter spills into 2023, but it also is at the end. So are we looking at?
So as mentioned, the Tyler Ranch staging area is done. It's complete. So we have basically been working with the Snow community to basically identify when the right opportunity is to open that up. So we are on September 13th holding a community open house where people have an opportunity to come out and meet Wayne and Terry and ask Chief Chiburo and others questions just about how the property is going to be managed. And then it'll be up to operations to decide when they're ready to really officially open the gate or do it in sort of a soft opening way. We expect that that'll happen before the end of this year, the soft opening. And then we expect that the formal, dedication event or something like that will happen sometime or in the early part of the winter. So, before spring of 2023. And that will be the full Tyler Ranch property and the Robertson Ranch property. So our intention is to open up it all at one time.
All right, thank you for clarifying that. I was zipping to the end of the year. So. All right, and then I had a couple of other questions that I sent to you earlier, and one had to do with access from the Robertson property on the north east into Pleasanton Ridge, and it looked to me in the maps like there was a gap between the two properties, which would be open. So was that some kind of geologic reason why the two of them weren't?
The geologic region is sometimes these things move at a glacial pace. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good. I like it.
We know that.
This is a growing and evolving park. So this is an opportunity that we identified that we could do. It has independent utility. It's something that we could do now. We had already had authorization to work on the Tyler Ranch staging area, so we could open that up. We do continue to work on trying to secure the permits for the trails that were approved in the 2011 Pleasanton Ridge Land Use Plan, those that we evaluated through CEQA. That has been a long process. We recognize that, but we are continuing to work on that. We got our first permit packages, which those trails are part of the Tyler Ranch staging area, but we're continuing to look at potential alignments that would close that gap. It's a difficult gap. There's some really sensitive habitat, some really challenging geography there, but we continue to look at that and keep moving that forward. Of course, there are some other properties that would make connections along the ridge feasible if those opportunities were ever to come to us. And then we are also looking at the Owens property and the Chenard property and the opportunities to connect over to Pleasanton Ridge. So there's a lot of different things that are kind of going on the park. Like I say, this opportunity we saw as having independent utility to bring over and open up some land in a way that provides some public access in the near term, but still looking at some of those long-term goals that you mentioned.
Yeah, and I know some of these take a very long time. But of course, it's a large piece of property. So for most people who are going to ride it or hike it, they'll have a large area that they can enjoy.
Absolutely. There's definitely a lot of potential for future connections.
Yeah. Then, as I indicated to you, I had some concerns about the names, the trails. You know, names are always something that people notice. And what happens with properties like this is, we hear about the designated names at this juncture in the decision. And if you want to have a name changed, it seems to be pretty complicated to be able to do that. So I do think the names need to be reviewed with the board prior to having a decision on this adoption. And for myself, I did feel like some other names needed to be considered, and in particular, Indian names. As you know, I sent this to you ahead. So this wouldn't surprise you, but and I know that we talk with our cultural coordinator about this, but when we come to the point of approving a land use plan amendment or a checklist like this, I think we need to have those conversations with the Indian descendants well in advance so that there is even the possibility. And since we have been having this conversation with Thurgood Marshall and other locations, I would like to have you do some of this planning so that we're not having the conversation when it comes to the board. And I guess there's a Pelnan Trail in Pleasant Ridge now, but I feel sure there are probably some other Indian names that could have been used. And this is essentially a heads up, because we seem to be managing it, for example, in Coyote Hills on posts. And I don't know how those conversations went. And we have this as a possibility coming up when we talk about Clayton Ranch. And so I would like to see us have these conversations in a timely manner. And I'm not going to say what other names I might like here, but I just wanted to set some awareness on it.
I appreciate that and certainly noted.
And then, thank you so much. This is, as the President Coffey said, a very exciting moment for us to add this many acres to the parks and reduce the number of parks that are in land bank. So thank you, Brian, and thank you, Kim and Neoma and everybody.
Other board members? Director Eccles.
Thank you, Brian and Kim and the rest of the team. This is, I agree, very exciting, and really thanks for the virtual tour, since I didn't go on the physical one, but really very great to see this. Very exciting. I do want to support Director Lane in her suggestion to change the process slightly to have some discussion around trail names and other names in general up front, and particularly considering our Native American names that and consulting with folks who are tribal members who still live in and around the Bay Area. I think that's an excellent solution, or excellent suggestion, I should say, and solution. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Rosario?
Oh, sure.
I thought I saw your hand.
Yeah, this is a great word, very exciting. But my concern is, this is, as Director Coffey said, a substantial land purchase, and it is basically, it could be a park by itself. My concern is that we staff our parks, right size our parks so that our staff can take care of it. So I'm hoping that we're in the next year or so that we can look at what the operational needs there and staff appropriately. Obviously, you're going to need more personnel and more equipment. So I just want to make sure that we're always looking at that as well. So thank you, but well done. Really excited.
Director Waspy?
I wasn't going to say anything because I was hoping to vote on this, and I've got to leave for a very, very important appointment in a couple of minutes. I'm very excited about it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's great. I'm not going to say anything. I'm very happy about the land bank status, and I'd love to know how much land bank status we have total left. And I won't say a word about it. Lift aerial tramway up, eliminate that Tyler Ranch 1,700 miles. I won't do it.
Thank you. Director Corbett?
Yeah, this is, it's very impressive too. I agree with the other board members who have a concern about looking at how to name some of these properties that may have been important places for where Native Americans have been and lived. And so I'm just wondering, so I support what they said. I just was wondering, do we keep track of the land as we gather it, it becomes land within the park district? Do we keep a record of Native American ownership or participation on those lands? Do we have that? And do we have lists of names? Do we have like a historic, item that we put together on that as we get land?
Well, and we do have, the history of, I guess, post-colonial ownership of land. I think, generally Native Americans did not own land, but they may have occupied areas of the park district through different territories. So we know where those territories are. And Anna Marie Guerrero, who are our cultural resources coordinator, certainly, can identify those tribal affiliations that are most connected with a certain area. With regards to names, and this was just for the benefit of the board, the response I provided to Director Lane earlier is, the long answer is, or the short answer is it's tricky because there's a lot of different perspectives on naming for Native American people or Native American history. We often hear a lot of interest from folks who want to acknowledge Native American history on the property, but then we'll often hear from Native people that they don't necessarily want that. And that perhaps for them, they want to have some other more substantive engagement around their interaction on our properties. And that's a good conversation that we should have. So we have been cautioned often from our cultural resources coordinator and others to not necessarily pursue Native American names without really a very sort of robust engagement process with the Native community, which can be challenging and take a lot of time and also contentious because Native people, like all of us, don't always agree with each other. But I think with regards to this particular property, certainly no reason why names can't change in the future. And then with regards to the district as a whole, I think that's worthy of a conversation for us to have is sort of how we best honor that history that I know we all care about.
Well, thank you for that. Something very specific that I hope we gather and continue to gather is just the land that we take care of. That we have the actual information as to whether Native Americans were living in those areas. There should be some sort of history book of that.
Yeah, so we do have what is called the Cultural Resource Atlas here at the Park District that has pretty extensive studies that have been done by archaeologists over many, many decades on different properties. That's all highly confidential information, so it's under sort of lock and key. That's kept by our Cultural Resources Coordinator, but any of the archaeologic studies or histories that's been done by the Park District or previous studies that have been done on our lands, we have that, and we generally know that history. But again, it's something that Native people are often very concerned about, is sort of how much we advertise their history and presence on a piece of property, because there has been a history of exploitation when people find out. That's why we keep very high security on Vasco Caves, because that is a site that we have seen vandalized or looted in the past. So it's something that we're often cautious about waving a flag too high on regarding the Native history. So I apologize if I'm being a little bit evasive about that, but trying to be respectful of just the people who have connections to this land and what they feel is a very personal connection, and not something that they want advertised.
Yes, and I understand that, and I've heard that before, and I know about that. I just, as a member of the board, I would like to have a little more information on land and knowledge, who owned it, etc. Not who owned it, I should say, but who lived there, had events there, those sorts of things. So how do we get that information available for board members?
Well, certainly we're always available to you as a board member to provide you that information. So please feel free to reach out. I think as we move forward into developing our interpretive materials and start to pull together information that we will be using to educate the public on the site, that'll be coming together. So we can have additional conversations as this park starts to open up and as we start to develop those materials on making sure the board is briefed on that before those things go public, as we continue to pull that information together.
Okay, good. We'll put the information together and make
Yeah.
sure the board members have that information as we move along. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will go to Director Wieskamp last and then look to her to make the motion on the resolution. But I first want to ask if we have any public comment on this agenda item.
No, President Coffey.
All right, any hands raised?
No.
Don't see any. All right, so Ann.
It's taken a long, long time. Beverly and I attended a lot of meetings getting to this substantive piece of property. Didn't we all enjoy that panoramic view? I think when we do open this to the people who are like Dennis Wasby, liking strenuous hikes, we ought to show what they're going to see if they do go up there, because that is just an incredibly wonderful perspective. So thank you so much for having that done. I don't know whose idea it was, but it was just terrific. As for the naming process, I think we do have to be very careful and respectful about the concerns of the Native Americans. And I also would like us to remember that some trail or two up there, let's throw in the rancher who did all of that work and provided some of what were going to be part of our trails. So a little to both groups who did so much for the land. I am really pleased that we're moving close to it, that we're going to plan carefully for the opening. I want the trails to be safe, and I know our staff does too, as those, I don't want anybody climbing up there in this weather. Right now in Livermore, it is called sunny and 110. So I suspect that it's pretty hot over there. So wait for a little cooler time to open up and choose wisely if you're going to climb up there. I think it's going to draw some of the crowds away from Mission Peak. I think they're going to get a different opportunity of perspective and to try something new. So I'm so pleased it's happening. Thank you, staff, for the great opportunity. Sure, I'd like to go up and see it, but I am, practically a native in Livermore, telling you, let's wait a while as far as I'm concerned to go up there for one magnificent view. And does any other board member have something to add? I know Dennis hated to leave because this is one of the opportunities he would appreciate. But I would love to move forward with the authorization to approve the land use plan checklist amendment, notice of exemption for the Robertson property.
And this is the resolution on page 48 of our packet. Is there a second?
Absolutely. Yes.
Director Lane seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffee. Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
Director Echols.
Aye.
President Coffee.
Aye.
And Director Waspy is absent. So, it's approved.
Are we allowed to applaud?
And
I think we
Director-
are. Staff, everybody. Good job.
And Corbett votes aye as well.
Director Corbett, I'm sorry, I thought I had called your name. Director Corbett, yes.
Aye.
Thank you very much to the board. And I just want to say thank you to Kim. She's done incredible work on this, and Naomi Laval as well. Both of them have done a really heavy lift in trying to coordinate and
Great
get this
job.
open. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Excellent presentation. We move to item B, authorization to enter into an option purchase and sale agreement to acquire 767.8 acres of real property from Coleman Foley Jr. trustee, or commonly known as our Finley Road property. And this will appropriate $230,000 to cover the option payment and due diligence costs. And who's presenting? Christina. Thank you. Proceed. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Coffey, members of the board. Christina Kelchner, AGM of Acquisition Stewardship and Development. I'm going to pass this over to Mike Reeves, our Chief of Land Acquisition, in just a moment. But I did just need to step up here and say that today is a day in particular that I am just so incredibly proud of staff. Between the opening of what Director Coffey mentioned is the equivalent of a new regional park at Pleasanton Ridge, opening the land bank property at Robertson, and then this acquisition is one of our most significant acquisitions that we've had in many years, over 700 acres that will help to create a corridor from the BART station in Dublin all the way to Mount Diablo State Park. So it's an acquisition we've been interested in at the Park District for decades, and it is through the patience and perseverance of Mike Reeves that in working with the owners that we do have this opportunity. And also I wanted to really thank the board for their ongoing support for land acquisition as we continue to conserve and protect open space right here in the urban areas of the East Bay. And I particularly wanted to introduce and thank our partners here from Save Mount Diablo. We have Ted Clement, the Executive Director. We have Seth Adams, Conservation Director, and Sean Burke, Land Program Manager, all here. And I just want to thank them for their partnership on this acquisition. Not only are they helping us to find other people's money to do this acquisition, but their donors have contributed $50,000 toward the option payment. So it is with those partnerships that we're able to continue to do this incredible work for the citizens of the East Bay and the region. So with that, I will pass it over to Mike Reeves, who's going to tell us about this great opportunity.
Good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board. Mike Reeves, your Chief of Land Acquisition. I'm going to pull up the presentation. Yeah, let me look there. I'm just going to navigate to the file. Thank you.
Would you like me to sing a little song as we're getting ready for this?
Okay.
I'm totally prepared.
Here.
Mike is working on the share screen.
Go back here.
Okay.
What song are you going to sing, Beverly?
Here.
Present.
Okay.
Well, I think it'd be Amazing
Present.
Grace.
I think that's
That's
good.
what it would be.
I like it, like it.
Like to just.
I am a self-described Luddite when it comes to technology, so I will defer. The wait will be worth it. Looks like it.
Is that it?
That looks familiar.
There it is.
All right, we are there. Okay, again, Mike Reeves, your Chief of Land Acquisition. This next item is for not to acquire, but authorization is sought from the board to enter into the agreement that will set us forward in motion towards a planned and hoped for acquisition of this 768 acre property. We're going to go into some maps, which will provide a little bit more orientation. But I wanted to start with this overview. This is taken some sense of kind of scale. This is taken about midway up the property elevationally, and it's looking south. And we're going to see this again after we look at some maps. So you'll have more of a orientation. Now, this is at a scale it's a little hard to make out, but there's some important information here on this map. So just to orient folks, turn on the laser. So this is the Foley property here, and it is adjacent to all the light green you see is Mount Diablo State Park. The dark green areas on this map are all part of regional parks, regional parkland. This Foley property is mostly associated with our Morgan Territory Regional Preserve. And that's because there's an access point into the preserve and into the state park from this area. This line here is Camino Tasahara, right? Wraps around and continues on south, eventually into I-580. And down here you have the communities of Dublin and Pleasanton. Other colored areas on here include this crosshatched area here, and you can see a little bit of it up here. So these two pieces are part of the proposed dedication of over 700 acres of the Tasahara Parks planned residential development. This would be a dedication of that open space land to the park district. So that's kind of consequential as it relates to the Foley property, because the northern piece of that Tasahara Peaks is adjacent to the Foley property. We're going to shift to the next map in a moment, but this one is oriented purposely with the property at the top of the map, and that's so you can see going down here, this green and black hashed line here is the Tasahara Creek Regional Trail. Everything that is green and black is completed and is open. And then there's just a few areas, and that's in purple. You can kind of see that here and here. Those are gaps, remaining gaps in that Tasahara Creek Regional Trail. So these two gaps are associated with the Army's Camp Parks military installation, which is this light green here. And we're currently working on adjusting our existing easements with Camp Parks with the Army to make that a more viable connection. So those two pieces are underway right now, which would leave then just the gap from Camino Tasahara right here and on into the state park and into Morgan territory. So this piece, the Foley property, then is a really significant and critical gap in eventually completing the Tossahara Creek Regional Trail all the way. I'm going back down to the south here, all the way from the Dublin Pleasanton BART station, and then that could take you from the BART station all the way up and into the parks. So that's the significance of this map showing that regional trail connection. So zooming in a little bit more, this map looks a little bit more to the north, and this is a story here. Christina Kelchner said that it's been several decades, and if we take it actually from the first acquisition by the Park District, which was in 1975, to put the first bit of green on this map for Morgan Territory Regional Preserve, we're looking at almost 50 years of history, of acquisition history, to basically preserve this entire area, which is Morgan Territory and the southeastern flank of Mount Diablo State Park. And if we just look at, bring that back, if we just look at the acreage west of the land west of Morgan Territory Road, since 1975, again, just west of Morgan Territory Road, we've acquired over 3,000 acres of open space, and about a third of that was subsequently transferred to state parks as part of Mount Diablo State Park. And that 3,000 acres, that's significant because what we're looking at here is an opportunity to create access, improve access into this whole area, both for the state park and for our regional preserve, Morgan Territory. And those 3,000 acres today don't have really adequate access. And you can see here on this map, all those red squiggly lines, those are existing trails on both the state park and in our regional preserve system. So there's a very extensive system of trails in this area, but the one way into that is at the end of Finley Road. So here's another marker for reference. This is again Camino Tossahara here. This is Finley Road, starts off at Camino Tossahara, and it dead ends at this point where we have the old Finley Road trailhead that leads into the system of trails. But what we're lacking is a staging area for easy access into this area. A couple other things to point out on this map, these two yellow dots here and here are where future staging areas could be located associated with this property. And then again, you see the cross-hatched green here and here, that's the proposed Tossahara Parks project dedication of open space lands to the Park District. So we're going to zoom in even further now. And here we got its aerial photography, so you can get a kind of a sense of the lay of the land. This is showing the yellow lines are all the existing ranch roads on the property that would lend themselves to a future trail system. You also have this marker here is for the scenic area. There's a lot of scenic viewpoints on the property, but that's one you can get to. Again, you see here's in triangles. This is future sites for developing staging areas. That would be both of them off of Finley Road. The one to the south here would be in conjunction with a future dedication of the land here, which is the Tossahara Parks piece. And the triangle up here at the northernmost part of where the property touches on Finley Road is where an ideal site would be to develop a staging area that could get the public much closer to the old Finley Road trailhead and on into the state and regional park system north of there. This is also the entrance to what's known as Riggs Canyon geographic feature. As we know, Mount Diablo State Park has several canyons that flow out of it in all directions. Riggs Canyon is a very broad canyon system, itself composed of 3 smaller canyons, and all that feeds down to the old Finley Road trailhead. But we don't have the old Finley Road staging area. So that's the significance from a standpoint of, again, access into that park system. And Old Finley Road trailhead opened in 1996. So that's an important date because we've been working since then, or waiting for an opportunity since then to find a suitable site for a staging area. So we're going to turn now to some photographs. Oh, yeah, there's the little hiker. That's where Old Finley Road trailhead is today. Okay, so if you were to drive up Finley Road on any given weekend day, you might encounter this kind of congestion because today that's how folks who want to get into the state park or into Morgan Territory will start. They park here somewhere along the shoulder of the road as best they can, and from there it's a walk or a horse ride, a lot of equestrian use here, or a bike ride up the road with no shoulders, and that's basically the state of affairs today. So it is popular, and its popularity though is constrained by, again, limited available parking, and this parking is a good half mile or so down from where the trailhead actually is. So this is the opportunity. It's just a couple 3 acres of the 768 acres, but this couple 3 acres is a very ideal site for developing a future staging area that could get the public up into the park system. And this is looking north, and the staging area is on the west side of Finley Road. All of the subject property, the 768 acres, is comprised of everything on the west side of Finley Road. So we're gonna ascend up into the property, and we're gonna kind of go back and forth in seasons, as you'll see. We're gonna go from kind of Ireland green to much more classic Northern California Golden Hills. But this is looking down. This is looking southeast, looking down into Finley. You see Finley Road along here. The staging area is just off of the image to the left here. Now we've gone up to the first saddle of the road that takes you up into the interior, and we're pivoting and we're looking due south. And this is looking into a broad amphitheater or bowl of a series of drainages. All of these flow from this area and into Tassajara Creek. Okay, well, now we have a different season, and the bowl we were just looking at is just off to the left of the screen here. And so we're pivoting more and we're looking further south and a little bit southwest. And so what you see here is the next ridgeline over, which is encompassed by this property, is the headwaters of Alamo Creek. This property encompasses the remaining unaltered section of Alamo Creek until it hits residential development here at Blackhawk. And so the property boundary borders right on the Blackhawk community. And I'm tracing the line here as roughly the property boundary. You see this road right here, maybe on the ridge line. That road extends north, which would be to the right, and on into Mount Diablo State Park, albeit it's a portion of the state park that's not open to the public, but this property does connect directly into the state park at that location. Now we've climbed much higher up onto the property. We're looking again, this is the image I had at the beginning of the presentation at the title slide. And so this is a panorama photograph. And so you can really kind of get the scale. This is the breadth of the property from east to west. And over here, again, we're looking south now. So over here you see this is the Tassajara Creek riparian corridor and Finley Road, running parallel to it. And this is where the staging area would be, right? That would take you north up to the old Finley Road trailhead. Now, if traveling west across the property, across this amphitheater over into the next ridge line, you drop down into the Alamo Creek drainage here. And then beyond that, up on the top of the next ridge line, lower ridge line there, again, you have the property boundary with Black Hawk community. And then as far as north-south, again, this is you're still just about midway up to the top of the property, which is behind us. But to the south, the property it's all that you can see here. It's these low hills before it drops over into the Tassajara Parks piece that is a potential future dedication. And then you connect right in with, you touch on Camino Tassajara. From that same vantage, we're looking now to the east. And here you can see the properties in the foreground. Finley Road is somewhere down in here. And then, so rising in the background and off of the property, now you're starting to get into Highland Ridge. This is the Highland Ridge line here. And right about here, there's some telecommunication towers that aren't really showing up. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is, I misspoke. That's going to be the next slide. This, actually, I'll take you right there. Okay, this is the slide that's looking east. Okay, and the subject property is in the foreground all the way to about here. Finley Road is down here behind this ridge, this rise. Now we're looking up to the east, and this is Highland Ridge. There we go. So this is the telecommunications tower array, and that's about the start of where our high point of Morgan Territory Regional Preserve is. So our preserve runs from this point all along and takes in all this part of Highland Ridge. So just the scale here is one that's can even confuse the person who's been out there. So going back to this slide, this is looking due north. And now, again, we're about midpoint of the property, north-south. And the property goes all the way to the top of, this is Black Hawk Ridge, which is part of the Black Hills. And this is where it would meet the state park boundary. So getting from where we are here, where this photo was taken, up to that would be quite a hike. But you can get a sense of the habitat. There's just a lot of chaparral, right? South facing hillside. So a lot of chaparral habitat, rock formations. It's stunning, stunning geography, stunning topography. And again, looking east up into the Highland Ridge area. Okay, so just to kind of recap, again, over almost a 50-year history of land conservation in this area, in and around the Riggs Canyon complex, working to acquire lands for our own preserve, as well as acquire lands that ultimately went to state parks as part of the Mount Diablo State Park, and acquiring lands to connect those two together. I call this a capstone acquisition because what's been missing up to this point is providing that better access into that complex of conserved lands. And this is an opportunity that would do that. The property itself preserves a mosaic of habitat values on a large landscape scale. So we have, again, all the upper reaches of Alamo Creek that have largely just intact, undisturbed. We have a good segment of Tassajara Creek, and we have headwaters to Tassajara Creek that rise on the property and flow down into that creek. There's that critical link to completing eventually the regional Tassajara Creek Trail. And that would again bring people from the BART station down at 580 and from those communities all the way up into the state and regional parks. The property itself, because of its internal ranch road network, has the opportunity to develop a self-contained trail network. And then as AGM Kelchner noticed in her introduction, this property is part of what we call a green wall protected open space along the county, Contra Costa County urban limit line. I don't think she mentioned that part, but this basically provides a bulwark against leapfrog development. This green wall going all the way from the state park down to the Alameda County, Contra Costa County boundary. And that would go a long way towards helping protect Tassajara Valley and maintain its rural character and lands further east of the valley. So the terms, today's action again by the board would be to authorize entering into an option purchase and sale agreement. The property may be purchased for $11.4 million, 768 acres. The property will be sold as is, which is very undisturbed. There's no house or homestead or boneyard or anything that you would typically find on a ranch on a property this size. So it's a very clean property. Under the terms of the agreement, these timeframes are critical. We have until November 22nd to exercise our purchase option or to elect to extend the purchase option until March 24th of next year. And this time frame, the first deadline, November 22nd, corresponds to when the staff will have completed largely its due diligence. We also, very importantly, by then should have a good idea of where we stand with respect to requests for outside grant funding. We have as of today, we have two requests for funding in. We have with state parks, a $300,000 grant request through their Habitat Conservation Fund program. And through the State Coastal Conservancy, we have a $7 million grant request. If the funds, if funding is awarded through either or both of those opportunities, then looking at the process for the state agencies to have funds to flow into escrow, that's what would take us into next year. And we're allowing ample time for that process to occur and still meet our deadline of closing by no later, or exercising our option to purchase by no later than March 24th of next year. Payment, $200,000 option payment, non-refundable, but applicable to purchase price. And then if we elect to extend the option period additional time, another $200,000 payment to be made, again, applicable to purchase price. A condition precedent under this agreement is that the seller is to obtain county approval of a lot line adjustment. So that actually just happened. It happened last week, or we would have updated the staff report to reflect that. So that was what the property owner did was take legal lots that kind of transected both sides of Finley Road and moved everything that we're under contract for, the 768 acres, brought that all into one legal lot that was approved by the county just last week. That's comprising everything on the west side of the road. The Anderson Ranch, which is the name of the ranch itself, includes lands on the east side of the road, but that's not subject to this acquisition opportunity. Close of escrow within 30 days. And then grazing, very important that we continue on the urban wildland interface to make sure we manage fuel loads. So grazing season typically starts in January and runs to end of June, water and weather permitting. And the term under the agreement to allow the seller who grazes the property with their own cattle, once they're on there for the start of their season, to continue to graze through that season at no cost But that's again, managing the fuel load out there. So we would very much encourage and that arrangement. So again, today's action would be an appropriation of $230,000 to handle the initial option payment of $200,000 and due diligence related expenses. 50,000 of that 200,000, again, as a reminder, is a cash contribution, generous contribution from the state of Mount Diablo. And I understand that they're ready to wire that funds as soon as the board says aye. So thank you again. Thanks to the city of Mount Diablo. With that, staff will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let me see. And Deb Lane.
I'll have something else to say about this, but I wanted to share a little piece of history from 27 years ago. I was elected to the board in 1994, the end of that year. And the first Park District sponsored meeting that I ever attended was one which Jerry Kent invited me to. He was in charge of operations then. And he said, well, we have this meeting at Tassajara Schoolhouse coming up and it's in your ward. And would you be interested in coming? So I thought it was nice of him to invite me. And so I went to this meeting at the old schoolhouse, and it was a meeting of a lot of equestrians and people who were hikers in the area. And it was all about access to Mount Diablo State Park from Finley Road. And it was very interesting because people who were not equestrians along the road couldn't bring their trucks in to turn around and park anywhere. And they were very eager to be able to go into this area, which was, of course, not open. So that was my first experience, was people in the area wanting access to Mount Diablo. And sure enough, we decided that even though we weren't going to be able to, we had to put up a big sign that said, no place for equestrian trucks to park at Finley and Tassajara Road. We opened up the area, which Mike referenced, and allowed people to come in and in an informal basis. And so for 26 years, people have been parking along the road if they're hikers, or finding friends who have horses where they could put their horse and ride into this area, into Riggs and the Mount Diablo and Morgan territory. So I can only say that it only takes a few decades before we can pull ourselves together in significant negotiations based on ranchers there or no longer there. And so we now have this project before the board. So I was so pleased to hear about the signing the option, and looking forward to people's comments today.
Thank you. Other board members? Director Rosario?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I remember going to Sacramento. I just wanted to is this the property where RBK, Rebecca Bear Cahan was doing a member ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. So do we know if that is in place still or not?
Director Rosario, that's correct. That we did have Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan out onto the property with her staff early in to the process. And that was while at a time when the sausage was being made in Sacramento with respect to the state budget. And there was a window there, an opportunity that did not materialize. But we're now going through the more traditional process through state agencies and through their funding programs. And we've found very good reception with both the state parks and with the Coastal Conservancy. And a few weeks after we had Bauer Cahan and her staff out there, we also had Conservancy staff out on the property as well.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're doing the application. Thank you.
Any other board comment? Oh, thank you, Michael, for the presentation and very much appreciated.
I'll say that after the board's comments or questions, I think we want to bring Ted or Seth up here to.
That's where I was
some
going to go
comments.
next.
Sorry for preempting you.
Ted, you want to lead off?
President Coffey, just to let you know, we have Ted Clement, Sean Burke, and Seth Adams speaking. And then Kelly Abreu. just
Right. I
raised his
thought
hand.
that Ted could lead it off.
Mhm.
Thank you for coming and thank you for your $50,000.
Yeah, good afternoon, Board of Directors, General Manager, everyone else who's a part of today's meeting. It's really an honor to be here with you and talk about such an exciting project. My name is Ted Clement. I'm the Executive Director of Save Mount Diablo. And Save Mount Diablo is a nationally accredited not-for-profit land trust working to protect the important open spaces in and around Mount Diablo and Mount Diablo's connection to its sustaining Diablo Range. We're in the midst of our 50th anniversary celebrations, and it's an exciting time at our organization. And I'm grateful to be here with some of our terrific staff today, Seth Adams and Sean Burke. We also want to encourage you today to take the next step with this project because we feel it is so significant. The property has incredible wildlife habitat values. It's an incredible natural carbon sink. And it's really a portal for more access and ways for people to get out into nature, connect with nature, get to Mount Diablo State Park, get to Morgan Territory Regional Preserve, etc. And because it is so unique and so important and is such a perfect building block of our 50-year history together, this is yet another major collaborative effort that we're so proud of. And we just cheer you on for taking on such important projects like this, but we're here to help you in whatever ways we can. And as mentioned, if the board approves taking the next step today, we stand ready to wire 25% of the at-risk monies of that $200,000 option payment to you. We've already written letters of support to potential funding agencies for you, and we stand ready to write more of those letters on your behalf. And again, just help in whatever way we can. We value the partnership. This project speaks so much of our great partnership and the things that we can do together. So my applause to the terrific board and staff. And I know Mike has worked so hard on this as well as other East Bay Regional Park District staff. And we just applaud you all for this good work. I've brought some additional information for the board and other interested parties about Save Mount Diablo, our most recent newsletter, our most recent annual report. I'll hand that to the clerk to disseminate at her leisure. So thank you all. And again, so excited to be here with you today.
Thank you, Ted. Seth?
I'm so excited to be here. Sean Burke is going to pass around some pictures that would supplement what Mike Reeves showed. And this is an amazing example of district leadership. And I really want to applaud you for moving in that direction. I want to thank Christina Kelchner and Mike Reeves for their incredible work on this, because This is an amazing acquisition in both for its resources and for its strategic location. This is one of the top 5 acquisitions left around the main peaks of Mount Diablo, and it'll serve 2 major parks. When Black Hawk development was approved in the mid-1970s, for 7 miles, it blocked access to Mount Diablo and Morgan Territory from the south, from Sycamore Canyon and Knobcone Point on the west, east all the way to Riggs Canyon and Finley Road. The steep chaparral-covered Black Hills and Black Hawk have been a barrier to public access for 50 years. So when I tell you about the Black Hills, you know that they're the chaparral-covered south slopes of Mount Diablo. They are an actual geologic barrier. They're incredible high biodiversity, and they're punctuated at a couple of points by canyons, including up into Riggs Canyon. This is the gateway to Riggs Canyon. And Riggs Canyon is not just one of the nice big canyons like Pine Canyon or Mitchell Canyon, which opens up. Riggs Canyon is a whole canyon complex of 3 or 4 different canyons. Jackass Canyon, the main headwaters of Tassara Creek, Jeremiah, stretching off to Highland Ridge. It's a huge, huge area. And in the mid-1980s, it was a dream of Save Mount Diablo and the Park District, Bob Walker especially, of connecting across 5 miles of private land from Mount Diablo State Park through Riggs Canyon to Morgan Territory Regional Preserve. I have worked on the Mount Diablo to Morgan Territory corridor for my entire career. And it has been a miracle and a half getting to this point now, where Mike calls it a capstone. I call this the key to the canyon. This property is the key to opening up Riggs Canyon. So, and when I talk about the 7 acquisitions or the dozen different land use projects that we've had to get past to get to this point, I could talk to you for hours about the history of this problem, but of this property. But imagine that we had to stop a quarry in Riggs Canyon. We had to stop multiple subdivisions. The Tassajara Valley Property Owners Association application was 6,000 houses on 5,000 acres, stretching from and including this property all the way to the Alameda County line. The original urban limit line in 1990 included this property and all of Tassajara Valley. We tightened it in 2000 and made it voter approved in 2004. The acquisition started with first stopping that quarry, then the state park buying the Jones development property, then the park district coming in on the east on Perry and Cardosa, starting with Marshall, 7 different acquisitions, 3,300 acres to cross this canyon, leaving just the mouth. Finally, we got the mouth of the canyon too, but there was no good place for a staging area. So why did we open it up? Because one of the private landowners had kept trying to subdivide the property. So as soon as we got the Musco parcel, the Mann parcel, right behind this private property, we wanted to have watchdogs looking at the canyon, keeping track of what this guy was doing. And so we opened up Finley Road, which had been the original public road, ahead of time to put pressure on more preservation and to show people what was out there. Sort of out of breath. So everything about this property is strategic in terms of opening up this major canyon complex, which will allow you to go to the summit of Mount Diablo from Dublin BART Station or across Morgan Territory and off to Brentwood or Livermore. But the resources of the property are incredible itself too. And what it also opens up are the additional acquisitions that can happen stretching to the east along Highland Ridge. This is the most important land project, in our opinion, in the Diablo area in the last 10 years, since Roddy Ranch by East Bay Regional Park District, and since Curry Canyon Ranch at the heart of Mount Diablo that we acquired. It's just such an incredible opportunity. And we had started to concentrate on how to go about protecting it when the representative of the family approached the park district and said, would you be interested in buying the property? It's been slow but steady since then. And we could not be more committed to helping you to develop the funds to complete this purchase. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing that history and all the work you've done.
All the work we've done.
We value the partnership. Yes, indeed. Sean?
Good afternoon, board. Yeah, I really would like to reiterate everything that, everyone has said about this particular project. It's an incredible piece of land. It's a very strategic puzzle piece in the Mount Diablo area, specifically with the East Bay Regional Park District and the state park and say Mount Diablo's Curry Canyon as well. It does wonders for protecting biodiversity and wildlife corridors in the area, as well as allowing people to get access to these particular areas and enjoy them for any number of recreational activities. And it's really a stunning canyon, and Riggs Canyon, and it's one of these canyons that a lot of people don't necessarily know about because it's kind of hard to get into. But with this particular acquisition, it really provides that pathway in for people to recreate in these areas, but not only just that, fall in love with these particular projects and these lands, and with open spaces in general. Recreation is such an important thing, as we've all seen for us as individuals in the Bay Area throughout the pandemic. And this particular piece of land, this acquisition, is a perfect example of time and place, and kind of being able to act with that kind of momentum of getting people attached to these lands, and getting people out into these places and falling in love with it. So yeah, anything that we can do to help the East Bay Regional Park District, we're there for you at any moment. So thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, I see one hand up.
Yes, President Coffey. Kelly Abreu? You have 3 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we just heard about how important it is to have access to parks. And one of the key pictures that we heard about 27 years of informal access. And we saw a picture of many, many cars parked for half a mile along some country road along the shoulder of the road, with people getting out of their cars and walking up the country road to go into some park. And now now that this land is being opened, I would hope that maybe that roadside parking is not declared to be illegal by the Alameda County Public Works Agency, perhaps, or perhaps by the Park District, or maybe by a city, or maybe by some other agency why would I have such fears? Well, on Morrison Canyon Road, the Park District opened up a park at Vargas Plateau, and they received $200,000 from Brenda Buxton of the Coastal Conservancy, and Coastal Conservancy funded that parking lot there, and then they went ahead and outlawed parking on the road. There's another park on the other side of Fremont, Mill Creek Road, which is, the road is named Mill Creek Road. The park is called Mission Peak. And this road goes up a nice walk, 2-3 miles up the slope along a country road. And they outlawed all parking on the road. And they made the gate, if you do walk up 2 miles up the road, the Park District has signs on its gate say no entry, entry prohibited into a park from a public road into a park at Mill Creek Road. This kind of we have a double standard here, where we all, laud and applaud and throw flowers at places where the people on their horses and the people of near Blackhawk can walk into Mount Diablo State Park, which is great. I support that. But I think elsewhere we need to have legalized parking along the country roads, open up the gates of these Park District regional parks, and not artificially limit the size of the parking lots through restrictive and shady legal agreements, as was done at Vargas Plateau Regional Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Now I'm going to turn to Director Lane for a motion on the resolution on page 87 of our packet. Director Lane.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you to the folks from Save Mount Diablo for coming and for your contribution. Indeed, this is a major move that we are making on a piece of property that we're going to be very proud of as a significant link, all kinds of directions. And I really appreciate the work that's gone on for decades with land checking in with the Foley family and being rejected and being friendly and doing the things that we needed to do to prepare for this time. So for me, it's a great pleasure to be able to move this resolution to authorize to enter into an option purchase and sale agreement to acquire the property from Coleman Foley Jr. and trustees, etc.
That's a motion. Director Rosario seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffee. Director Lane.
Aye.
Director Wieskamp.
Aye.
Director Corbett.
Aye.
Director Rosario.
Aye.
And I believe Director Echols has lost her connection. And President Coffee
Aye.
and Director Waspy is also absent. So it passes 5-2.
Okay, congratulations to staff and Save Mount Diablo. It's a great news.
I'd like that.
I promised a 10-minute break add Director Echols.
There she
Yeah,
is on
I've
iPhone.
tried 3 different devices to get on here. So
Okay.
can I add my I vote, please?
All right, we got that in. So we're going to take a 10-minute break, a real 10-minute break. And we have to talk about the rest of the meeting and whatever else we need to do. Thank you all.
Thank you. Alex, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Sounds good.
Time pressed. So in order, because we're going long this afternoon, I've suggested, I think people at least here think it's a good idea. We'll the next item will be an action item, which is time sensitive at 4A. Is that okay, Alan?
Yes, I'll be leaving after that.
All right. Appreciate it. So
I do want to do the habitat conservation.
yeah, and Abby's here, so I'm not going to bump that one. Are we ready to go? Are we live? And
Yep, you are ready to go.
okay, we'll resume the meeting, and item 3A is going to be put over to our next board meeting because of the time concerns and the importance of the subject. So that brings us to 4A, authorization to award and execute a construction contract to NBC Construction for the residents at Anthony Chabot Regional Park. Who will be handling that one? Deborah Ocker?
Good afternoon, members of the board. We have Jeff Rasmussen today, who will be presenting this item. I know here he is. Okay, Jeff, I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I was turning back on my microphone as we were reconvening. Thank you, everyone. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, Assistant Finance Officer, here to present on the Anthony Chabot Residence Project. And I will attempt to share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Jeff Rasmussen, Assistant Finance Officer, and here to seek the board's approval to replace the campground residence at Anthony Chabot Regional Park. So with some background, the board and staff have been working on this project, this and other residence projects for quite a long time, and this project, Anthony Chabot, has consistently been one of the main priorities of the board as well as staff. So some history, we've actually been working on and completing a number of residences recently. We completed the Camp Royal Director's Residence. That was $417,000 for that project. The Vasco Caretaker's Residence was completed for $429,000. And the Black Diamond Errata Residence was approved by the board and is currently in process at a cost of $489,000. Some other work that we are doing on residences, looking at these photos here, going clockwise around the pictures there. The first is the Pleasanton Ridge Tejon Canyon is our duplex pilot project. As you can see from the picture here in the upper right, it's a very large, beautiful residence in Pleasanton, and it has a downstairs bedroom and living room and wet bar area. So we're in the process of turning that into a duplex, where then it'll be shared with a resident downstairs in the lower duplex unit, and then another resident living in the upstairs portion of the home. So that project is currently underway. The next project moving around is the Vasco Cave Service Yard. You can see a picture here of the rather dilapidated trailer out at Vasco Caves near the service yard. And part of our objective in replacing these residences is get away from these trailers, because they are very, very, very tough to maintain and not of very high quality. The next project in process is in the center here is the Tilden Corporation Yard, the replacement of that trailer at the very entrance to the Tilden Corporation Yard. That will be coming to the board as a potential budget request for the 2023 budget year. So look for that. And then finally, we are working on Round Valley improvements to Lydia Lane. There are 2 residences out there. This one dark green one shown here is the older of the residences, but both are currently being renovated, and hopes of allowing the California Condo Board to authorize the California Conservation Corps to use these as spike camp locations in exchange for them providing free cruise to the park district. So that work's nearly wrapped up. Should have been done here right before the holiday, but will be completed very soon and ready for the Conservation Corps to move in. So getting to this project, Anthony Chabot Campground. The residence was removed in 2011. As I mentioned before, trailers, it was a really a mobile trailer in really poor condition. It was just no longer inhabitable, so it was removed in 2011. But this residence at the entrance to the campground serves security needs for this very campground in a very urbanized area. It's great to have that consistent park presence at the entrance to the campground, and it's a very busy campground with 75 family sites and 75 group campsites that are busy just about every time through the season. Anyway, the group camps are very, very, very popular. So some features of our residence replacements, these new residences that we're building, essentially they're stick-built residences, not trailers, and they come with sustainably sourced lumber, heat pump HVAC and heat pump water heaters. These are very energy efficient and electrically powered units. So the energy can be produced from green sources such as solar. They don't use gas and produce CO2, and they're very efficient. Cementitious siding. We have a lot of problems with woodpeckers and rot and things like that, so the siding is very durable. We fill the area between the insulation shown here in yellow is spray foam insulation, so it's actually really outstanding insulation. It has much higher insulation qualities than the pink fluffy insulation, but also maybe more resistant to rodents and that type of thing. And then finally, on a concrete slab foundation, so we don't get rodents and snakes living underneath the trailers. That is one of the real problems of these trailers, is the roads get underneath, and it's hard to keep them out. So for this residence at Anthony Chabot, like I said, we're applying the lessons we learned from Camp Arroyo, Vasco, and Arata. It's a 2-bedroom house, approximately 900 square feet, at a total budget cost of $643,000. Now this includes the $471,000 for the construction cost, plus the engineering costs we've paid to date. PG&E, we need a new meter, and we need to pay fees for hooking up to Castro Valley Sanitation District, and also a contingency, which hopefully we don't need. When we presented to the executive committee, there was some questions about the cost of this residence and why it was so high. One, I'll offer that the $471,000 is fairly in line with the cost of the other residences, but specifically, contractors have expressed a lot of uncertainty related to inflation right now, especially short-term inflation. I mean, just individual products that they bid on going up, a whole lot in the very short term, as well as just general supply chain issues. So that's another reason for the cost. And then, as I just mentioned briefly too, this is the all-in cost, and hopefully we won't need to spend so much of our contingency. So we'll be able to maybe return some of that back to the fund. So with that, I asked the board to appropriate funds and authorize award a construction contract of $471,917,000 to NBC Construction to construct the residence at Anthony Chabot Regional Park. With that, I'll stop sharing and take any questions.
All right, I'll look to the board for any questions or comments. Thank you for the presentation, Jeff. Director Lane?
Yeah, so we're working on a consistent technique of building, but not necessarily the same model for each of these houses that we are building from scratch.
Yeah, that's true. We are using the same building techniques, but being stick built, it's actually very easy to customize. And each building, I guess if we ever end up the exact same situation, we would have no need to change it. But the Campo Royal was our first model, and it was a little small and made some improvements to that. Vasco Caves was completely different. It was a single bedroom with off the grid, quite different. Errata proved to have a lot of conditions from the county related to historical use, historical aesthetics, and things like that. And then this building, this one was modified slightly. But these are custom built, stick built buildings, and the architectural changes are done easily. When you work with the architect, all these changes are modifications are made very easily.
Any other director questions or comments? Director Wieskamp?
I like the fact that staff is working to have these be very sustainable in some difficult locations and used by a variety. We know there's going to be a variety of people living in them over a period of time. So I think you're doing a good job of something that's very important to the people who are going to be in them and to us, because they're simple and they look good. And my gosh, I love keeping the rats and the snakes out of the house. So I think good design, good work.
Generally a good idea.
It generally is. For a woman who had spiders not long ago, yes.
I want to mention at the exec committee, we did question the seemingly high per square foot cost of this construction. And Jeff had very good explanations for that higher. It's public contracting, and it's also the high standards that we approach this with, because we want these facilities to last a long time and have all those protections that Jeff outlined. So that was good feedback on the cost, I felt, at the exec committee.
Sure.
With that, Director Waspy isn't here. Director Rosario makes the motion. Oh, hold horses. We do have a public comment, and we hadn't voted yet, so we'll go to the public comment. Kelly?
Thank you. So here we are, we're building park residences somewhere, and to support the employees. That's great. I'm wondering if there's another double standard going on where residential districts, residential zoning in cities, everybody has the opportunity under California law nowadays to build ADUs everywhere. And even agricultural districts under zoning ordinance number 17.06.095 in Alameda County, they allow agricultural employee housing subject to site development review, which basically they can check the boxes and get approval for agricultural employee housing on a permanent, temporary, and/or seasonal basis. And they can provide units for families, one person, several persons, utilities. They can provide water and sewer, everything under this zoning provision. So why doesn't the district, if you can if you're putting in these residences, why don't you get your version of ADUs, where you put in your own, I don't know what you'd call it, agricultural or recreational or park employee housing, and get another unit, double up, just like ADUs do. And where we're under these kind of ordinances, you should have the right to put in twice as many residences for various purposes within the regional parks. Thank you.
Thank you. So Director Rosario moved the resolution. And is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Wieskap seconds. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, President Coffee, Director Lane,
Aye.
Director Wieskamp,
Yes.
Director Corbett,
Aye.
Director Eccles,
Aye.
Director Rosario,
Aye.
and President Coffee.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you again, Jeff. That moves us to General Manager's comments.
We're going to have a presentation from Neoma, and then if we have time, I'd love for Operations and Public Safety just to give a very, very brief update on this weekend's activities.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the closures. Yes.
Well, it doesn't have to be that brief.
However brief you want us to be.
Whatever you can do.
Good afternoon, President Coffee, members of the board, General Manager Landreth, and members of the public. I am going to share my screen. Is it on? Yep. Okay. I am pleased to present today on the landscape scale partnership between the Park District and the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservancy. Abby Fateman, the Executive Director of the Habitat Conservancy, is here on Zoom with us. Thank you for joining us, Abby. I'd like to share a short infographic detailing the acquisition history of the Park District. The Park District manages and protects approximately 125,000 acres over 73 parks. Over the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, the Park District primarily owned parks in the western portion of the East Bay. You can see here with our original parks of Tilden and Anthony Chabot. But as time went on, the Park District began to expand eastward. And by the 60s and 70s, it had a presence in the eastern portion of both counties. You can see here in Contra Costa, it started in Contra Loma and Black Diamond mines. By the 1980s, the Park District had continued to grow and remained strongly committed to implementing its dual mission of public recreation and conservation. By 1988, the passage of Measure AA generated growth throughout the Park District and also cemented the parkland presence in eastern Contra Costa County. By the early 2000s, as the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservation Plan was being finalized, it was clear that the Park District was going to be a key partner with the Habitat Conservancy to implement the land conservation and management goals of the plan. The 2007 HCP and CCP was formally adopted, and along with the passage of Measure WW in 2008, parklands expanded quickly in East Contra Costa County. This is a partnership in action. Currently, this is the 2007 at plan adoption. The existing parks included Black Diamond Mines, Big Break, Morgan Territory, and Basco Caves, among others. The Habitat Conservation Plan was a regional plan to really concentrate development in appropriate development areas and use fees for permitting for those development areas to fund conservation outside of the development areas and really create appropriate habitat corridors and concentrate conservation. This is the preserve system as of 2022. We have an entire new parklands that have resulted as a result of this partnership. New parks include Deer Valley, Vasco Hills, Byron Vernal Pools, Clayton Ranch, among others. Over 14,000 acres have been acquired, 40 of which are owned by the Park District. This is a successful partnership thus far, and we are really looking forward to what comes next, to getting public access and really continuing to implement the Habitat Conservation Plan and developing preserve management plans. There are 28 covered species that were a part of the original plan. And you can see here, this is the goal, 30,000 acres in 30 years. We're about halfway there with over 100 million public funds invested towards habitat conservation, and restoration for species protection. In 2023, will mark the 15-year anniversary of the Habitat Conservation Plan and the successful partnership between our two agencies. There's been 11 habitat restoration projects already constructed. Highlights include the 2018 Horse Valley Creek and Wetland Restoration Project, 2014 Hess Creek the Hess Creek Wetland Restoration Project, and the 2008 Sousa 1 Wetland Restoration. These projects span all of the different parks within the preserve system area in eastern Contra Costa County. Permits have been issued for different development projects, and an enormous amount of science and research has been done on these lands. And then finally, the endowment was established for the long-term maintenance of these lands in perpetuity and will continue to be contributed towards as we move through the next 15 years of this partnership. Our planning for public access continues through the development of preserve management plans and looking forward to new restoration projects that are coming up. We have the former Roddy Ranch Golf Course, as well as the Knights and Nunn Wetland Restoration Project. And of course, we still have the ongoing acquisition priorities to meet the goals of the 30,000 acres in the 30-year permit period of the plan. Just to highlight a couple of the projects currently in progress that we're working towards. One is the preserve management plan for the Vasco Hills Byron Vernal Pools project. This plan contains a recreation chapter that's really focused on recreation in the northern section of both parks, of both Vasco Hills and Byron Vernal Pools, with additional access points off of Armstrong Road and new trails that could be open to the public after the plan is adopted. And then the former Roddy Ranch Golf Course, which will be coming before the board, will be being adopted this fall in 2022. This project is really exciting and our planning staff has been working hard on it the last few years. It'll include restoration of wetlands and grasslands, as well as the construction of various trails and the removal of concrete cart paths. It'll also be reusing state infrastructure like the staging area and sewer and water system. And we look forward to this plan being adopted. And then finally, as a key part of our partnership with the Conservancy is really keeping track of different projects that might affect the preserve system. So along with the Habitat Conservancy, Park District staff has been working to monitor the Los Vaqueros Reservoir expansion. A lot of our focus currently has been around Vasco Hills and Byron Vernal Pools. Part of the expansion includes a Bethany pipeline, a construction of a pipeline, and then as well as the State Route 239, which would connect Vasco Road down to Interstate 580. All of these projects, staff has been coordinating well with the staff from other agencies that are the lead agencies on these projects. And we continue to monitor them to make sure that our preserve system is not adversely affected. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'm here to answer questions along with Abby, who's also on the Zoom call. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naoma. Does Abby want to add any to that presentation or just respond to questions?
This is Abby. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you for coming, Abby.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody. Thank you, President Coffey and members of the board. I just want to start out by saying how much I appreciate the partnership with East Bay Regional Park District. Staff have been spectacular to work with. We've have a great working partnership that only seems to get better with time. And so I do want to acknowledge staff, Naoma, Brian, and everyone else who's engaged with the Habitat Conservancy and the work we do, from park supervisors and park rangers to planning staff and assistant general managers. It's been a real pleasure working with the array of staff that are engaged with the HCP. So I just wanted to acknowledge that that this is a really important partnership, and we have been able to accomplish great things in our first 15 years, and we look forward to continuing this partnership. I'm also here to answer any questions as well.
All right, thank you. Members of the board. Ann.
Abby, what I'd like to say is, what if all partnerships were like ours? Wouldn't it be wonderful? Positive, moving forward, not arguing. If we did any of that, it was in the background, and working out problems and looking at opportunities together. I so appreciate all of the hard work you did in letting us share in all those treasures that are being saved. So thank you so much to everybody involved.
Thank you. Others? Director Ling.
Yeah, so we're celebrating an anniversary, or we just did. It was like
The 15-year anniversary will be in 2023, and this is really just an update of where we are, and then we are hoping to move, forward with a couple more of events next year to really kind of highlight everything that we've done so far, and then what are the next steps and what's coming up.
Well, I really appreciate this, and I am remembering after WW was passed, and we'd been surprised with grants and other people's money with AA. People saying, "Well, I just, I don't know that we'll get that same kind of opportunity." Now we have the WW money, and then came the habitat conservation plan and the grants that they were eager to spend. And, it wasn't a simple thing to have us be partners like this, but because we had our land acquisition department, we were able to fold in and really accomplish so much really quickly. And I think all of us know that this HCP and NCCP combination is a star in the state and maybe the nation, because of our willingness to work together and the fact that Park District had a land department. Because so many of the other HCPs were saying, well, how do we go about purchasing land? And they had to create things from scratch if they ever did. So I'm really pleased with it too. And I wonder if you'd send me the PowerPoint, Neoma, because I love the maps and the information as well. So thank you for the presentation, and good to see you, Abby.
Yes, happy to send it to you.
I always describe it, Beverly, as a perfect storm that we benefit from, in the sense that around 2008, you have the HCP coming into existence and starting to get funding. You have our passage of Measure WW, and then you had the Great Recession, which led to a lot of disappointed ranchers wanting to sell their land to us. And lastly, we had this advantage you're talking about, a highly professional park district and a successful park district and an HCP staff that knew how to get things done. So you bring all of that together, and in 2008, and 10 years later, they were up to something like 14,000 acres out there. The question I have is, the original plan, if my memory's right, is a 30-year plan, Abby, and envisions another 15,000 acres. Is that about right? So that's also something to be aware of and keep the acquisition mindset in place to pursue the HCP plan. Dee, did you have anything?
It's just I think just to expound on Director Lane, is that it is a model for the rest of the state and the country too. And I congratulate you and Abby and our collaboration. My question is there 15,000 acres of land we can get out there? Is there that much left?
Yeah. No, look all around. Well, I guess I shouldn't be specific, but yeah. Look between Thurgood Marshall and the San Joaquin and Alameda border out there. There is 15,000 acres.
Okay. Go.
Any other board comments?
Well, I would also like to thank Abby for the partnership and our team for working so well together on all of these different projects. It's really fabulous, and I so enjoyed that graphic that Neoma had up there, where just the land, the more and more of the map turning green with parks, and so just let's do some more.
Yeah, I love that graphic. That's a real fun one. So I would also suggest there be some celebration next year, and I would like to personally lobby that there be Abby Fateman-led hikes in some of these land bank areas. That's my 2 cents. Anything
Choose
else?
the right time of the year.
Yes. Yes. Okay, there's nothing further from the board. I'll turn it back to the general manager for updating the board on the closures this weekend.
Great. Thank you, President Coffey and members of the board. So as you all are well aware, we took a fairly unprecedented proactive step to close many of our parks this weekend because of the excessive heat warnings and fire dangers that were forecasted. And unfortunately, those came to fruition. And in fact, the temperatures were even higher than many of the forecasters predicted. So we have up and down. This is not obviously a unique situation to the Bay Area or the East Bay, but this was all over the Western United States, unprecedented event in all of California. And there were some other open space agencies that did take a proactive approach to closing their parks as well. We are going to be debriefing as a team here because I hate to say this, but we might see these extreme weather events, or we will see some extreme weather events in our time here. So we are going to work on incorporating those into our action plans alongside other emergency actions that we take as a park district. But I thought it would be good for you to hear from the two AGMs on just kind of what experiences we had out there with the public and with our staff over this 3-day weekend. It was very, very active. If you went out to any of our shoreline parks, I think Jim, I don't know if you have those photos to show real time, but we'll certainly make sure that we send those out to you. But he's got some statistics on how many people we had out there, very crowded. And from the chief on kind of what we were seeing with some heat stroke issues, emergencies, and then also our successes in actually taking that proactive approach to close the parks and to prevent, I think, significantly more heat related and fire emergencies that we would have faced if we hadn't done this. So I'm going to hand it over to the two of them. They are fighting to see who gets to go first. This is actually a first. So.
All right, good afternoon again, President Coffey, members of the board. Jim O'Connor, your Assistant General Manager of Operations. Yeah, the chief and I are going to do Chabot, who's going to speak first. How would I qualify this? And we also have Chief Tiley here, our fire chief here also, who contacted us on Thursday with this unprecedented conditions that we were facing over the weekend. And I'll let the chief and the two chiefs talk about that more in detail. But just from a perspective of parks, I think it was really a good call for us to leave the shoreline parks open. The biggest issue we have as we move forward in time and we're dealing with climate change adaptations and mitigations is that trying to find that balance between safety and access. And people need our parks. They need to get out of their really warm homes. Some of them don't have adequate air conditioning. They need some recreation, they need some relief just to get out of their homes. So we're trying to find a balance between safety and access. And I think that was the challenge we had for this weekend. So we kept the shoreline parks open, and wow, people really needed those parks. On Monday, staff estimated we had about 9,000 people at Crown Beach.
Wow.
When Dave Mecke, the acting unit manager and normally the park supervisor for Crown Beach, left at 8 p.m., he estimated we still had about 5,000 people along Crown Beach. And all the shoreline parks were at maximum. And Crown Beach, the parking area filled up by noon. So it was really a good call to keep those beach parks open. People needed to get in the water and cool off. So that was a good call. In terms of the response we had to cancel about 26 reservations for Sunday and Monday. This is a combination of picnic and some of the interpretive programs, specifically at Black Diamond. What my staff says, most of the people were very understanding about that. I suspect a lot of them were going to cancel anyway. Some of them were self-cancellations because of the heat. At Anthony Chabot campground, we had quite a few campers leave Sunday because it was just too much. The heat was just too much, and you don't get a whole lot of relief up there. And then we didn't get that overnight relief that, as the chief says, we normally get. We didn't get that over from Sunday and Monday, and I don't think we're going to get it tonight. So anyway, the response from the public was pretty good. We did have a couple of complaints that Chief Tiley addressed. People really love our parks and they have regular routines. And so there are going to be people who are upset when we close parks. But I think in this case, we made a good call. We found a good balance. We kept the shoreline parks open. And of course, it is impossible to totally close our parks. But the idea was to reduce, as Chief Chabot says, the patron load or our visitation in parks, so that if we did have an event, we wouldn't have as many people we'd have to track down and evacuate versus managing a fire or another major event in the park. So it was unfortunate, but I think it was the right call, and we found a good balance of that for the most part, and people seem to be understanding. I think we're all going through this together. This is all new for all of us as we go forward in time. I think even members of the public are understanding about that in terms of the safety factor. So, but we still have some work to do on this and thinking this through for the next season. And we're not even done with this season. So if we don't get some good relief on the drought side, I think we're going to be dealing with more of this next year. So generally, I've got some more information, but I want to keep it brief, and we can provide more information if you want it about more specifics about the parks. But generally, that's how it came down. And of course, I'll be here for questions after.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon, Chief Chabot again. I'd go with the 3 C's in terms of busy. Crown Beach, really a historic high there. As AGM O'Connor said, Coal Canyon and Don Castro were very busy, very hot, very busy. Director Waspy was also, he was at Don Castro, appropriately dressed with a straw hat, which I think that was appropriate. Del Val was busy. Temescal, not so much in terms of being busy. If I could just, the one thing I would say about Crown, patrons were in a good mood. As AGM O'Connor said, that's what people felt about Crown Beach. That was the feedback I got from staff. We did have lost or found children that we would facilitate. We worked through that. Also, just a shout out to Alameda PD, and we have a good relationship with them, and they were helpful to us as always. The one thing I'd want to mention too, for perhaps more so for Director Wieskamp, we did head down to the Niles Canyon. We were down there. We did spend time down there. The water is not ours, of course, but we did work on barbecues and other issues. And when we had the helicopter come down and actually use the public address system to try to get some of the people out of the water, we did our best. That is not our jurisdiction. Nonetheless, we tried. And that is all I have, unless you'd like something further. Thank you.
Where was that last location, Chief?
Niles Canyon.
Oh, Niles. Okay.
That's our work we're doing with multiple agencies down there.
Yeah, there's water there.
Yes.
I see. Was enforcement difficult? Yeah. I mean, I was on Redwood Road, I think Sunday and Monday, and saw all sorts of cars along the street. And I guess just because we block off entry to the park, they don't feel that this really applies to them.
That's correct, sir. Parks are porous, as AGM O'Connor said, and we talked about. So we do our best. We're in an educational mode when these type of issues do arise. Education over enforcement. Of course, sometimes there could be something else going on. and we'll take action on that. But I think it's just tough, and we try to do the best we can. We try to be judicious. It's mostly education, and we're aware of that. We can try our best. It is difficult to keep people out of our parks.
It amazed me. I saw people setting up their barbecues on Redwood Road since they couldn't get in the park. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Beverly?
and that's not the safest place to have your barbecue. That's for
No.
sure.
I wouldn't think so.
Compared to our developed parks that we maintain.
Go ahead, Dee.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Good call. I just heard some constituents over the weekend, and one of them was that, did we have any concerns at all about the red tide in Alameda and contact with the water? Because people said there was no sign saying anything about, is it safe to be in the water? So some people wanted to know.
Yeah, my understanding is that we did put up some signage. So I can check on that again, but my understanding is we did put up some signage. With red tide, the challenge this thing is you should shower off when you get out, and I believe, I don't know if it's the same as we have, but the cyanobacteria toxins, but with dogs, that's the other challenge, is keeping the dogs out of those waters. I was out there paddle boarding the weekend before last in the red tide, and you just got to rinse off after you're done.
Yeah, I know there was a lot extensive media exposure, but I guess it depends on where you access the beaches.
Yeah, that might be the point. But let me check with staff. But
Okay,
I know
great.
we did put some signage out there after we were contacted by our water quality folks.
Okay, good. And then there was some more other feedback from other constituents that they would like to see on these hot days that actual physical signs that, ask people to make sure you bring water. To me, it's like,
Self-evident.
yeah, it should be common sense, but some people thought it would be helpful.
I might have to add that to a school curriculum.
Yeah.
How to stay safe in your wildlands.
Great, thank you.
Director Lane.
Yeah, I didn't go to that many parks, but certainly Sycamore Valley, people evidently didn't think the sign applied to them, because I saw them coming and going.
Yeah.
And I suppose what that did was made them be a little more careful. I hope.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always sorry when we feel like we need to close the parks like this. And I mean, I had talked to Colin a little bit about Contra Loma, and so was that entirely closed, or could people come and picnic?
Yeah, the intention was for it to be closed, but I think what happens. People park on Frederickson Lane and walk in. Again, our intention here was to at least reduce the load of visitation and the potential for trying to manage people if we had an evacuation condition. That was our primary concern.
Yeah, so, so there are recreation areas, by water, like Contra Loma. And then there's going into the hills with your trusty little match. So Contra Loma then was closed.
That was one of our closed parks, yes.
Yeah, well, I felt like Colin made a good point there, that we need to take a look at something like Contra Loma, where there is water. And if you have access to water in area where there's a lot of people that don't have their own private pools, maybe you could figure out how to make that be open, and if we run into this again.
And it's green, we maintain really nice lawns all
Yeah,
around the
there's
picnic
lawns.
areas. But I understand wanting to keep people out of the hills, closing trails. But I've shared my thoughts with Jim on that.
And the general manager has asked us, the public safety and operations, to get together this winter and really look into these events and talk about really get into more detail about which parks would remain open and closed, and look into this a little more in detail over the winter time. before we get to next summer season.
Yeah, well, I just feel like, operations did really well, closing them fast and putting signs up. I mean, it was very impressive. Because we
unfortunately,
didn't have
Director
much
Lane.
time for that.
Yeah, Director Lane, unfortunately, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've had so many events of closures, whether it was pandemic related or fire weather conditions that unfortunately they've gotten really good at it. Yes. And I'm hoping we don't have to continue this into the future, but we want to be prepared for that.
Jim, did closure enable us to reduce the amount of time staff had to spend outside?
Well, I mean, when we're under these conditions, we do have our heat illness prevention plan. And so we do try to minimize the amount of time the staff are out doing any kind of exertion activities.
Okay.
Patrolling from your air conditioned vehicle, that's great. You're still in a safe condition. So we still want our staff out moving around because people are still out there. Like we said, we can't completely close parks. So we still have staff out there doing work, but when it's this kind of conditions, we really try to minimize the amount of outdoor activity. But we do run parks, so we do have to get out there and keep an eye on things.
I also think in the general publicity that it's important for our public to understand it's not just the heat.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the chief did a memo and it included factors like very low humidity, everything brown, all the dryness and the inability to cool off overnight. So you put all these things together and it made it a good idea. But it's not that we're going to close parks just because of heat.
Right. It's the perfect storm, as I think we just heard. And I'll let Chief Tyler, who's more expert in that, talk about it.
Good afternoon, President Coffey, members of the board, Eileen Tiley, Fire Chief. I'm the one responsible for this recommendation, and I'm sorry, but I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I just blamed you.
Okay.
When people call me.
That's fair.
Mhm.
That's fair. It really was the perfect storm. So it's not just the fact that it was super hot and that we had record breaking yesterday, probably going to be record breaking today as well across California, not just in the Bay Area. But it was the fact that we are in the 3rd or 5th year, depending on who you talk to, of severe drought in California. We have 1,500 acres of dead standing trees right in the middle of the wildland urban interface. There was less than 5% fuel moisture, which, do you remember when you were a kid and you'd walk on grass when it was super hot and super dry out and the grass would just disintegrate underneath you? And the relative humidity never reached over 18%. And that's not just in one part of the district, that's throughout the entire district. And so really, what it's about for firefighters in the fire profession internationally across the globe is, personnel, it's life, property, and the environment. And so we can't even begin to address property and the environment in case of in the case of a wildland fire until we address the life part. So this was a way of taking the conditions that were incredibly ripe for any kind of an ignition to happen and mitigating the amount of people that we had in the parks. And with a lot of the things like we had weddings going on, at least we knew where those conglomerations of people were in case we had to evacuate. But if the parks had been open, there would have been no way to evacuate all those people. And I think a great opportunity, and I said this to a lot of people, I hand called many people to offer explanation. The majority of people were really happy to hear there was a process because apparently they thought this was a decision that was just made off the cuff. When they understood that we have a fire danger operating plan and that we've got triggers in place, and all the rest of the conversation, they really appreciated that it was a public safety issue. I've got a few statistics for you here that I think might be a little bit helpful, and it's a very broad brush, and I owe the general manager more statistics, but comparing 2020, 2021, and 2022. In 2020, we had 284 total incidents. Now remember, that was the year that we were open for COVID. And we really kind of got discovered by those people who didn't know that we existed in some ways, but 284 total incidents, 4 medicals, 7 total fire incidents. It's also the year that we had the siege, lightning strikes. Forward to 2021 Labor Day weekend, all the parks are open. We jumped here to 330 total incidents with 7 medicals and 1 SRA near Coal Canyon. This year, with 40 parks closed and 33 parks open, including available swim facilities. So that's just our swim facilities and our shoreline parks. We had 290 total incidences. That's only 40 below the previous year. And that's with 40 parks closed. And we had 12 medicals. Interestingly enough, 4 of the medicals were in our closed parks and 8, double that amount, were in parks that were open. So I shudder a little bit for the safety of my folks and for operational fire and operations if we had not closed those parks. We didn't do it for as long as other agencies did. We were very focused on Sunday, Monday. Monday was lucky because it's a holiday and we don't have reservations necessarily. So it was not without a lot of thought and a lot of communication back and forth. Operations did a fantastic job, as well as public affairs in getting the information out. We got it out early. We gave people options. A lot of the people that I talked to said, well, I go to Redwood every day and I want to go to Redwood. And I said, I understand that. However, and we went through it and I said, please go and visit our shoreline parks. Go to a park you've never been to before. You might find that lovely as well. And we got, our shoreline parks got as impacted as Stinson Beach, that had to shut down the entrance to the town of Stinson. Muir Woods, even though you have to have a reservation to go there, was completely impacted. And I wish that Brian Holt was still here, because they just knew to hunker down in Half Moon Bay because they were inundated as well. So we weren't that much different than the other shoreline parks that are out there. I hope this does not become, the norm, but the statistics aren't looking good. We did have a fire, the Franklin fire, that was 125 acres in the SRA. We were requested immediately by CAL FIRE per our MOU and our automatic aid. And that was stopped at, like I said, 125 acres. And they asked for our crew and our tender and our engines. So looks like we may have had a rekindle there or a new fire start about an hour or 2 ago, because we're back in the same general location.
And that's right next to our Christie Road property that's in escrow.
I believe so.
Fernandez Ranch, I believe.
I believe so.
From what I saw.
And one more thing to add to this, which is Director Lane, you brought up a really important point around equity and access issues around the district. Part of what we'll be working on, and I appreciate AGM O'Connor saying the winter, I hope that we don't have another one of these. The season is not over yet. But really looking at other even agencies and coordinating with them, because there are other facilities even outside of the park district that we can coordinate with on, and then also cooling centers, and making sure that that's also part of the messaging that we push out to all of our constituents. So that's something that we'll be working on as part of our planning process.
Yeah, and if Contra Loma's pool had been up and operating, we probably would have left that open, but it would be problematic, because what we're trying to avoid is people getting very, very deep into a park and needing rescue. And tying up resources for extended periods of time. So it would have been very difficult. But when the park like Contra Loma is open for swimming, that's the clientele you tend to get, is the people that want to stay next to the water and want to stay in the developed areas where there's lawn and thing like and such. So that's, all those little nuances are thought about. I was asked, why aren't the parks closed today? Because the general population has gone back to work and gone back to school. So, and even then we've done 2 rescues in Redwood today for people who didn't have enough water. So, and a couple more things I wanted to address. Firefighters were passing out bottled water. Our firefighters were. In addition, something new happened that I wasn't aware of, and there was no education for the chiefs of the Bay Area that went out SCU, CAL FIRE decided to form a hydration unit. And I didn't see it, but my firefighters told me that they had 4 or 5 utility vehicles that were filled with water, Gatorade, and a couple of paramedics, I believe, on them. They were actually going around to different fires and to different incidents passing out water. So that was interesting.
That's
and
terrific.
I think so too. That's all I have. If anybody has any other questions.
Director Eccles?
Yeah, well, Chief Tiley, thank you very much for making that recommendation. I think obviously it was a very tough call, and I just appreciate management for so quickly acting on it. I mean, I just hate to think what could have been if we didn't close the parks this past weekend. You know, it was just such extreme situation. And as you said, it was all of those different factors. It wasn't just the heat. So, you know, I think that was the right call, and I really appreciate everybody you know, quickly acting on it and taking the, you know, the complaints and from the public and explaining, you know, why this was important. And then I just wanted to also just mention, you know, I had a similar question to Dee about the red tide, and I'd asked about it on Friday, and we did apparently put up signage and the beaches that were impacted: Crown Beach, Hayward, MLK, McLaughlin East Shore, Miller Knox, Oyster Bay, and Point Isabel. And so I believe there was signage up all of those places. And there was also a notice on our website. And, you know, I had understood from the press and Eileen White in particular from the water board saying that, you know, you could get, it could impact your eyes and your skin. So you know, I think it is something real that we need to take seriously, even if it doesn't kill people. I mean, it's obviously not good for people. So I'm glad, you know, we were able to warn folks, and we moved really quickly on that as well. So I just want to express my appreciation for letting folks know. And yes, I mean, if my daughter and I don't have air conditioning either, and we tried to escape the heat. My daughter and I, we drove to Santa Cruz for the day, and it took us over 6.5 hours, not including stops. That's how crazy things were out there. You know, never again. Right?
All right, thank you. That's it. We can move on. Thank you for the presentation, and
Thank you.
Thank you for all the good work involved in this.
Right.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
So that brings us to, if the general manager doesn't have anything, all right. Announcements from closed session, council.
Thank you, President Coffey. Nothing to report.
All right, board committee reports. I believe the committee reports are all adequate. So let's move to board comments. I'll look around my Zoom room here. Director Rosario first, Director Lane, Director Wieskamp, and then Director Eccles.
Great,
So,
thank you.
D.
Okay, let's start off with 824. I attended the Regional Parks Foundation subcommittee on DEI, and they reviewed their strategic goals, and they're looking forward to continuing their work. On 825, thank you, Jim, for giving us an update on the Brioni's pilot project. Thought it was well done, and looking forward to seeing that happen. And then on 826, I met with our general manager for our one-on-one discussions, and then right after we had a nice tour of the Anthony Chabot campground, and then we also were able to hit the fire crew graduation, which that was really nice that we had time to stop by and see the new fire crew. They were very enthusiastic, and a couple of them brought their families, and it was nice to see. And then 828, the Ira Blatz retirement party. You didn't go, you guys missed out. It was really fun. I hate to lose somebody that's worked for the park district for 42 years, but it's time to go. But yeah, it was a really good party. Congratulations, and congratulations to Ira. And then thanks again to staff for the tour at Robertson. It was really nice to see it in person, live. Although the the drone footage did pretty well too, but you have to have that heat on your back as you get up in the dust. And then, and then I met the Alameda County API group, a roundtable met via Zoom. And we got a nice discussion with the interim general manager for the Hayward Unified School District. And how they're dealing with all with their problems and actually good things going on there. And then I did the hike on Saturday, 9/1, the Barrier Ridge Trail hike, and we hiked from Joaquin Miller to Bort Meadow, which was about 7 or 8 miles, and we ran across one person, prostate on the trail. She got overheated, and she was doing the right thing. She was resting, laying down. She didn't have any water.
Oh, guys.
So we, one of us gave her water and some electrolyte tabs, and she was good to go. And then on our hike, we had one of our hikers just got too hot, and so we just sat him down, and then made sure, and then had an early lunch, and then he was good. He was, after half an hour, boom, he beat us back to the camp. Like, so those things are real. I mean, even when you're prepared, sometimes it catches you by surprise. And then some people are just out there totally unprepared. And that was Saturday, so it wasn't as hot as it was on Sunday. And then today I'm here. And then there was a comment at the last board meeting. Someone wanted us to do more trash awareness. I just wanted, just for that, just to show how the trash problem is, I just pulled up the statistics from Lake Merritt. They keep track of how much trash they pull out of that lake, in and around that lake. In 2019, they pulled out 10,000 pounds.
Wow.
In 2021, they pulled out 63,690 tons or pounds of trash. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And yeah, and then that's, I mean, when you drive it, my drive from my house, just getting onto the freeway, it's horrible. And I think it needs to be like I don't know, there needs to be some kind of a campaign where everyone gets involved in. And I really, council members Gallo and Taylor, and I think actually all of them do it now. They're sponsoring cleanups every weekend. And in particular, Councilmember Gallo does it every weekend. I mean, they pull out hundreds of pounds of trash, and they keep going from different places, and it never abates. It's crazy. So just so that the trash it's not just regional parks, but it all ends up in our parks, especially our waterways. And so it's a problem. And I think we need to, if there's a big campaign, it should be with all of our sister agencies and cities. So there's that. So, and then we have coastal cleanup coming up.
Mhm.
I'm registered.
17th.
Oh, I'm sure there will be.
Thank you, Director. Director Lane?
Okay, thank you. One of the things that, with regard to trash, one of the things that I see so much is plastic bottles. And thinking that Con Fire was taking bottles of water around to people. One of the things that we might have a conversation about, perhaps with our Regional Park Foundation, is to really generate more reusable bottles, and with our name on them, the leaf, and offer them to people as part of our goal to have people not not buy individual plastic bottles and to refill. And we could particularly do that with Con Fire because we like being partners with them, and they might use those bottles and remember us in a positive way. So just an idea, because it drives me crazy to see those containers of plastic bottles going out. And it's like, well, it's good you're getting the water, but those bottles are everywhere. So back to board comments. I did have a chance to go 2 evenings to the hike and ride, one to S. Anderson and one to Bort Meadows, and really appreciated seeing all of those folks and the information on Ridge Trail. And there were many more equestrians than I had seen in past years, because I've often gone to S. Anderson to eat the food that our trail group puts together on us. And I was pleased they were able to continue their project over the weekend. Then I had the opportunity to have briefings on from staff on Brione's pilot trail project and on the plans, more detailed plans for Thurgood Marshall and the Bailey Road South area. Went to legislative committee, had an interview, sort of an exit interview with a reporter from the Compass magazine for the foundation, and really enjoyed going to Ira Blett's retirement. I had a chance to see a lot of people who came back that I hadn't seen in a long time, and found out from him that one of the things that intrigued him as a young child was seeing a ranger open up a flashlight with a tarantula in it and allow that tarantula to step around on kids' hands, and inspired him for the future. And the tarantula didn't nip anybody either. So that was good, because
that was a good
you
outcome.
know, they may not be poisonous, but they do have a little nip. And then I wanted to thank our IPM for the report. I think the integrated pest management little magazine is very user friendly, and I think it's very helpful that it is that, because this is an assistance to anybody who reads it. So thank you for it, and for pulling together a really desirable piece that people will read and enjoy. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lane. Director Wieskamp.
Yes, let's see, excuse me, finance on the 24th. And on the 28th, I too had an exit interview with Compass. What we've been thinking about, what we want to see happen, and all the rest of it. It was kind of fun to do. On the September 2nd, a reporter from the Independent called me wanting my suggestions on what kind of questions he could ask the candidates who are running for the East Bay Park District, and what I thought were important issues to talk about. And of course, I started with climate change, with fires, with dead trees, without enough water to do all we need to do. We've seen all of that this weekend. And I brought up Thurgood Marshall Park because I said, I think that is going to be a sterling opportunity to do something that has national recognition by a lot of people. And I think it's going to be important for the candidates to take a look at that and get ideas, because I really do think that's going to be a splendid opportunity for the Park District. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Ann.
Sure.
Elizabeth?
Hi, thanks very much. So on the 24th, attended the Finance Committee meeting, and also on the 24th, had a briefing with the legislative staff regarding the legislative committee meeting. On the 29th, we did the board legislative committee, and then on the 30th, had a briefing from staff on Jewel Lake. And I'm gonna, since we're running out of time today, I'm just gonna leave it at there. But I really, really appreciate all the information in this meeting. It's been a great, great meeting and a lot of good ideas and a lot of good information. So, and huge success with getting new land opened and purchased as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Now, mine goes back to July. I want to apologize, but that was the meeting that we didn't complete. And then last month I left my my notes at home. So I'll try to do this in an abbreviated form, but want to catch myself up on this. So my list goes back to late July, board priorities workshop on the 22nd. I attended the legislative staff tour by Government Affairs at Thurgood Marshall. I had a meeting with Ann Kassenbaum on the RPF board meeting preparation. I attended the RPF membership committee on the 26th. I attended the finance committee by YouTube, both in the July and the August meeting. And I attended the ledge committees meetings in July and August by YouTube. On the 28th, Elizabeth and I met with the Point Malati Alliance to discuss the good news that came from Sacramento. On the 30th, I did a climate resiliency hike at Dotson Marsh, went to the Ardenwood train track expansion celebration by the city of Fremont at Ardenwood. On the August 2nd, I attended Congressman DeSaulnier's tour of the Big Break regional shoreline. And that evening on the 2nd, Mila and I did tabling at the Hercules Night Out, August Night Out event. Saw a couple thousand people there. It was a very successful event for my hometown. Attended the mayor's conference on the 4th, and the Swalwell Walk and Talk at Lake Chabot on the 6th. On the 11th, I attended the park, is it Park Advisory? It's the Habitat Conservancy's PAC Advisory Committee. I'm used to it being park, where we presented on the Roddy Ranch Golf Course plans. On the 12th, the executive committee, and I attended the Delta Sierra Club meeting that evening. Then on the 13th was the DeSaulnier Walk and Talk at Thurgood Marshall. And on the 20th, the Bot Garden ribbon cutting and celebration of the Crevice Garden and Bart O'Brien's awards. On the 22nd with the GM, I attended a board meeting prep meeting, and I'm almost there. I attended a meeting of the Brioni's pilot update with from an update from AGM Jim O'Connor with Director Lane and Rosario. On the 28th, I did a Greenbelt Alliance hike at Kennedy Grove, and that evening attended Ira's retirement party at Ardenwood. On the 30th, with Director Rosario, I attended the tour of Tyler and Robertson Ranch properties that from our planning people. And again, want to thank them for doing that. On September 2 was the planning meeting with the GM for this meeting. And lastly, I'm very, very proud of my wife, Mila, for attending the Bay Area Ridge Trail Council's hike and ride. She did all 5 days, and she did all 5 nights of camping. Now, she's an avid hiker, but she's not a camper. So my daughter came all the way from Alabama to teach her how to pitch a tent. And my daughter attended some of the segments with her. And she and I went to every evening of the gatherings for dinner, including the one that both that you attended. And I thought it was a very special experience. And I know Mila, though very tired in the end, really enjoyed it. And thank you folks for letting them use the Chabot on Sunday. They all appreciate it. So that does it for me. And unless there's something more from folks on the Zoom meeting or in the room,